めていきましょう。
観光旅行？まるで遊びだよ。ディメンションワープスタンバイ。
セットオン。
10、9、8、7、6、5、4、3、2、1。ディメンションワープゴー。
ここがレム王国？
んなバカな。
I'ma save you tonight, my love. You remain so faithful. I must go off to war, my dear. You see the kids, they're away. And I will go so far. Away. And I will always love you, but you know so why must you love this man when I told you he is your brother? This is easy to understand. You see, my son, there is no other. cannot pretend. Other lyrics say no other. And she said,
Man.
so why must you love this man when I told you he's your brother? This is easy to understand. You see, my son, there is no other. I cannot pretend to love this man like my father. I cannot pretend, but there is, and I say no other. And she said,
Man.
an expert biologist, and when this handsome fellow isn't traveling across the world doing research, he's at home cooking a great meal?
But yeah, that's all true, but Sancho, where did you get that?
An excellent assistant knows how to write an excellent introduction. You got it, boss.
Or taking a long walk on the beach? Who wrote this mess?
I always lose myself trying to introduce myself. So, hey, welcome to Punchcast. Hopefully you guys are able to hear me. Everything's good out there. Gives me a thumbs up if it is. Lot happened. One of my immediate niece, right? My sister's daughter got married last week. So we were away for about 3 odd days. My body basically, yeah, thank you, Fred. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, so my niece got married, right? Like she's like around about 21 and married her. Well, the school they went to was like all encasing, like from like primary school to like high school. So she knew the boy from forever. And so it was interesting to watch these young kids, get married. And so, yeah, it was interesting to see all, I mean, it was really cool to see my nephews all dressed up like to the nines, like the friggin' blue, beautiful, kind of like off navy blue, kind of ocean blue suits. It was just so gorgeous, like handsome as man. Like they look so good. And it was really, they're all like my youngest nephew is like 14, 15. And so he was dressed up as like the ring bearer, and he had a suit on, and then his brother was the best man because all these kids grew up together and went to the same school. So and so it was really cool to see that. It's like really, I had a terrible time because my day start like on Tuesday. We went up on Tuesday, right? So um, I was supposed to get woke up at. I mean, I was getting ready to wake up at 11. I was getting picked up at 12:30, and it was gonna be all right. 12:30 in the afternoon. I go to bed at 5, get a call at 7 in the morning. So I've only been down for 2 hours, and it totally ruined my whole equilibrium for the rest of the week. It meant that like I was waking up at 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning and was getting like 2 hours or 3 hours sleep, and just really threw my whole week off. Plus the traveling, my body, as you know, is like I have neck and spine injuries. So any movement for long times, like like being in a car for long distance, anything more than like half an hour causes me, everything gets mashed up in my body, like muscles, nerves, bones move the wrong way in the spine and neck. And so they tend to like cause a lot of, annoyance. And so I've been like trying to get myself into this thing because I love doing podcasting. I really enjoy this. Usually if I've done it for about 2-3 days, I like look forward to it so much. I'm like antsy to do it. But like this week it's been like, I just can't do it. But there's been so much happen. Like last Wednesday morning, I woke up and I was looking at, like I said, I woke up like 5 o'clock in the morning, and my brother just gone pick up his wife, who'd come over from Aussie. Him and his son had come up a couple of days earlier, but my sister had to keep teaching, his special needs class, right? Because kids need to bond with you, straight away, especially if you're a teacher like that, right? And if you don't show up on your first couple of days, they'll kind of be step offish, right? They won't like come. They'll like, yeah, well, you didn't show up for me, so I'm not going to show up for. Kids get like that. I know when I was a kid, and like, I always felt like, if my parents showed up and they didn't greet me straight away, I feel like, what's wrong with you? Did I do something wrong? So this is, and then you think about the special needs kids like that, and so she stayed back, like 2 days, because it started in Australia. That started on Monday, and then so she had to be there Monday, Tuesday, and then Tuesday night she had to fly up and be with us. So she spent 2 days with the kids, and it just shows you the commitment, that she has to the kids. Because like, especially when you have special needs kids. I mean, I looked after a baby who was autistic, right, for about a year of my life. Um, I'd spend like 2 hours of the day just babysitting them while the parents could have time out. And and that was like just one kid, right? One child running around after them, and you got to be onto it. But you think of like these kids, like there's about a dozen or so, and it's just what it is. And like I just thought it was so cool, like just to learn that as well, right? Because sometimes I'm a guy who likes to learn things. The more I take on, the more I like to know, and the more I like to share. It's just why I do this, right? Why I separated the comics thing from Plungecast. So it's kind of it was really cool to like meet my family and be with them for time, because I don't usually get to, because everybody lives everywhere, right? And so you don't get to spend that much time. And I'm at that age where I like to be around people, and then I don't also like to be around people. I don't like to go out much because I've had my 20s and my 30s of going out and partying just about every night kind of thing. And now I'm like, I think I'm done with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at something that happened last Wednesday, which kind of like in the sense for me, um, where is it gone? Oh, I thought I had it. Okay, here we go. Which is kind of, I mean, it didn't affect me personally, right? It didn't affect me personally, but it affected someone I know, because it was in their country, and it was because I wake up like the reason I was saying, like my sister-in-law arrived, like my youngest brothers, because I've got 2 brothers and I've got a sister. So my youngest brother's wife arrived late, and so I woke up the time that they arrived back from like a 2-hour drive to where we were for the wedding reception. And so they arrived and I woke up. So I'd only been sleeping for half an hour, and I turn on the internet, right? I turn on my YouTube, and I'm like, updates, and I'm like, on the homepage on YouTube, it's like, wait, what's happening in Sweden? And so last week, And the reason I mentioned that is because, like, straight away my brain goes, I hope my artist is all right. Right. I hope it's not next to him and it's no, and he's not involved, or something's happened. So this happened last week, and so we're going to quickly look at that. I'll put a link for that. I mean, if you don't already know that, I'll put the link there. We just have a quick look at it, and we'll move on, and then we'll get to the other subjects. So this was
What you see on your screen are scenes from Örebro in Sweden. There was heavy deployment of police after the city witnessed Sweden's deadliest gun attack earlier this week. At least 11 people were killed and several others injured after a mass shooting incident in a school. Swedish police cordoned off the area around the school. Örebro is about 200 kilometers west of Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. Police received reports of a shooting that took place at 12:33 local time on Tuesday at campus Risbergska School. It's a type of school for adults known as komvux in Swedish. It is primarily for people who did not finish primary or secondary education. The campus where this adult...
So it's basically a school for school leavers, right? It's like when I left school, I went and did like an access course. I did like it was like 6 months of kind of like a tertiary education in chef school, right? Learning how to be a waiter, how to run, be a maitre d', how to run a restaurant, how to run a front of house. It's what they call it, like a maitre d'. How to run a front of house, how to run a bar, how to it was just like a government funded thing, so you could just go and do that for free, right? And they would give you some stipends as well. And so that was me at 15. So this is basically what where this happened. It was one of those, access courses was what we used to call it back in the day. Now they just call it like, I guess like a tertiary school, or like in between from like, kind of like tertiary, like school leaver, access course, and then a university. If you figure out that like, yeah, I'm really wanting to do this, it's kind of that sort of thing.
Education Center is located, also houses schools for children. So who was the attacker? The gunman has been identified as 35-year-old Rickard Anderson. He was unemployed. Police said the suspected attacker had a hunting license. They believe he acted alone and was among those found dead. Police believe the suspected gunman had killed himself. According to police, the attacker did not have any criminal record and no gang connection. Police said the motive behind the crime was not immediately known. The Swedish Prime Minister called the Örebro school attack the worst mass shooting in the country's history.
Today we have seen a brutal, deadly violence against completely innocent people. This is the worst mass shooting in Swedish history. There are still a lot of answers missing, and I can't give them the answers either. But there will come a time when we will learn what has happened, how it could happen, and what motives may have been behind it.
So what did the Swedish Prime Minister say? What motives could have been behind the attack? Sweden's police is looking into that. After the attack, speculation over the angle of crime has been rife. This is because the attack took place at an adult education center. Many students in Sweden's adult education system are immigrants who want to improve their basic education, get a degree, and learn Swedish to help them find a job in Sweden. But police have so far ruled out the possibility of any ideological or terrorist motive behind the attack.
We still believe that we have the primary perpetrator, although we do not rule out others with connections. He is not yet known to the police and has no connection to any gang. What we believe is that it's a lone perpetrator. At present, we do not believe that there is any terrorist motive behind it.
The apartment you see on your screen is where the suspected attacker allegedly lived. Police searched the apartment for further investigation. Reports say the family of the suspected attacker described him as a lonely man who had limited contact with his family for many years. The ordeal of the attack was terrifying. Gunshots rang out at the school. Teachers and students desperately ran from their classrooms or locked themselves inside. There were a few gunshots at the beginning, then there was a brief pause, and then started a continuous chain of gunfire. People who survived saw people being pulled away, injured. Listen to some of the survivors.
So I'm going to leave it there. Yeah, it was like, it was shocking to, kind of get that, like, I mean, to hear that and then freak out and go, well, I mean, it's we talk a lot about on this channel. We talk about a lot about like life and death, and a lot about young people and stuff, right? And these are like school leavers, so they're like high school teenagers, or just out of I guess like out of just around 20 years old. And then also she mentioned there like that it's a place where immigrants students come to learn how to you know learn off each other, or learn how to speak Swedish, so they can better acclimatize, or acclimatize to the environment or the new country they're in. So I mean, we do talk about immigrants on this channel because I'm an immigrant, right? So and I think it's usually because of the your mind usually goes, well, is it an immigrant who did it? And then we find out it's not. And then you got to go, well, what was the motive? And like the sad thing is, like, usually when people do such things, it's just full of hate. It's like they, rather than turn on themselves, which is still I don't don't recommend. Suicide's not a thing, but a good thing. But I mean, like, the fact is that in this case, he he killed 11 people, and you kind of feel like, I mean, I kind of feel like, well, you could have just did it yourself and just took yourself out. Why did you have to take out 11 people? It's just that hate in people, right? Is just like, rather than they turn it inward, they want to turn it outward, leave a mark. And there is that mentality in people, but like, that it's the thing about fame. And I always hate like how every year they make a new, um, I'm a writer, right? And I write horror stories and such, and all that as comics and stuff. And I enjoy horror movies, but I still hate the fact that when they glorify real events, I always hate, Jack the Ripper over and over again. They did Ted Bundy last year with Netflix over and over again. It's just like the same things. And so when people like who are like a bit mad, like this dude over in Sweden, you know, um, rather than like going, okay, I'm just, I'll do it, I'll take myself out. They go, well, don't make a movie about me. Let's go, like, they'll talk about me. I'll be famous now. You know, it's that I can't remember the exact saying, but there was a rock, better to go out and blaze glory than to fade away. That kind of like in the 80s and 90s, we talk like that to each other because of some guy had said it. Like it's rather than fizzle out, go up in like a firecracker, than to like fizzle out kind of thing. It's kind of sad, like when people do that. I mean, we see a lot of people do that, and it's really sad. And like, I mean, last week, I mean, for people in Sweden, like 11, right? It's the worst mass shooting that they had in their country. And anywhere people do anything towards anybody else in a violent way, I just think that's disgusting. I've been in, I've been, I just remembered, I've been in the middle of fights where I've actually jumped in a crowd to stop people from, someone hitting somebody else. And people, like, I don't know why people wouldn't like come near me after that, or wouldn't beat me up or get me out of the way. It's just like, I think that the shock of someone as thin and skinny as me jumping in the middle of a fight and trying to get the guy who's getting beaten away from everybody else. I remember like there was like a after school ball type thing that was happening here. This is like about going back in 2000s, and it was around about maybe 9 o'clock in town or something like that. 9 o'clock, we'd been, I'd hanging out, and then like I was just hanging out in town, sober as, and I was like, all these kids like were there watching some guy trying to beat up this one kid, and I was like going, what? Doesn't feel right. And so I jumped in, I grabbed him, I said like, and I, he's probably about 16, and I'm like 30, 27, right? And I'm not that big, right? And so, and I'm usually this skinny most of my life. And so I'm not like some big solid guy at that time, 30 years ago, right? Or 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And so I grab him and I go, just hold on to me. Don't let me go. And I'm going to grab onto you and I'm going to get you out of here. And there's like hundreds of people around it. This is like two different schools, by high schoolers, like two different schools. And because in Whangarei there's like Boys High, there's Tikipanga, there's Kamo High, and there's also Onarahi. Yeah, that's four high schools, and this is like all of them kind of like there are the seniors are all converged in the middle of freaking park down here, in the middle of, the back. It's kind of like just off the city, but it's in the city, in a big parking area. And I was like, just hold on, dude, and like, let's find you a way out of here. And it was all, and everybody was just looking on shocked. All the girls, all the guys were just like, what the hell? Who's this dude? And I'm like, let's just get you out of here. And so his mates basically came up, I think, if I remember right, hope I remember right, just came and took him away. Because by that time, everybody was like, they just realized that what's the point of all this? And that's why I just think it's kind of weird, like, that a lot of people, right, rather than try to stop a fight. And nowadays, you don't want to stop a fight because you yourself would be injured, right? Because people are just so crazy. And not only that, now, like, it's a point where, like, if you do try to help someone, the person you're trying to save will actually turn on you. And so a lot of males now won't even go to aid of females, right? Because of that, we've had, crazy cases where, someone's trying to help them, and because they've been trying to help them, now they get hurt, and now they turn on the helper, and and now you're the freaking attacker suddenly. And so people really, males have really been jaded because of that. It's like, well, why should I help Western women? And I mentioned this on a live stream a couple of days ago, because we're talking about like how there was in Iran, right? There was a video, and this woman was getting accosted by the religious police, right? And everybody was like, there was other woman there, and only an old guy went up and tried to help her. And everybody's going, well, why didn't the young people? Why didn't the like the 20-year-old guys or 40-year-old guys go? Why did you leave it up to old men? Well, the thing is, the younger people are thinking about themselves, or more likely their family, and also what's going to happen to their family in that situation when now you're in trouble. And nobody really wants to think like that. And because I think they think you're, just because you don't behave that way or come to somebody's aid, that you're just a coward. And like, it's easy when you're on your own and you have nobody relying on you to be a hero, right? But when you're on your when you're like, I've got a family to support, you've got kids, you've got your elderly parents, then you can't just jump in and try to help some stranger and then feel like, oh, I got to be the hero at this point. You got so much baggage on your case, because like, where's daddy now? Where's husband now? Right? Where's my son now? And next thing you know, well, your son's gone because he went to aid somebody. Like the other day, like just yesterday morning, I think it was, there was like about 4 people got stabbed in Ireland, right? This immigrant basically went around with a kitchen knife, right, and started stabbing people. Broad daylight. Went, knocked on the houses. Boom, 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 boom. Right? And Ireland opened their doors without checking backgrounds of people. Like, yeah, let everybody in. And now they're learning that, like, not everybody is going to come in with the best intentions. And so those guys basically, doing nothing inside their homes, open the door to a stranger early morning. I think it was like 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, hey, maybe it's my next door neighbor, or maybe he wants a milk, right, for breakfast, or a cup of sugar. Maybe that's Tommy coming over to, ask for, some onions for mum to fry up some eggs. Next thing you know, boom, he's getting sliced up. It was, it's just the mentality of people these days. It's like, you know, it's really, it's really hard to like for me, like, who's a writer, right? Who, comes up with these stories like this. And so you kind of like, you do it as kind of like fantasy, but you don't really want to see it in reality, right? I don't want to see it in reality. I hate seeing blood on people. Like, I hate people being hurt. And so when I'm actually writing a story, my idea behind the script isn't to like get you to feel, you know, excited about the pain and thing about it. I want you to be, the whole point is that, there's a reason why it's there, and it isn't to titillate you, right? And I think a lot. That's why I say, like, I don't like all these real life serial killer kind of things, or real true crime kind of things, movies being made about the same person over and over again, because a lot of times some of the crazy people think that's a good thing, right, for them, because they'll be made legends. They'll be made, everybody will be talking about them forever. I remember when this crisis thing happened, like in like 2020, I think it was. Like, the one thing we decided to say was we will not speak his name, so he wouldn't be remembered. So we don't even know. I can't remember his name, right? The Aussie dude. That's all I know. He's the Aussie dude, right? Shut up a whole bunch of people, right? Here in New Zealand, came over, right? And then because of him, all our gun rights got taken away, basically. They started running up our guns because of fucking Aussie dude, right? Not because of one of our citizens. No, because an Aussie dude came over, right? And that's really what happens. Like, when the nutcases do something, everybody else pays for it. But it's all like, and then it was like a knee-jerk reaction, because we had a socialist communist leader at that time, and decided, well, and that's the thing, right? Communists, as we go into the thing, communists, right, really like to be in control by making sure that you have no control. And that's the one key thing about it. It's like they will have all the power and you will have none. And it's quite sad. And so the link for the rest of that video is there in the chat about the Swedish school shooting. Next up, I just want to play this this little video that I thought was really cool. I have like a pause on it, but it always goes to like automatic play. So I'm not sure if you guys remember this lady, but this was but I remember she got fired, but this is from let's play.
The next person who has the sheer nerve, the sheer entitled caucasity to say all lives matter, I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna stab you.
Hey guys, my name is Modi and you're welcome back to Modi Speaks. So in case you're wondering, you're not allowed to spew hate against Black people. You are not allowed to be racist toward Asian people. You cannot be allowed to spread hate towards Native Americans. You're not allowed to be racist towards Arabs or Indians or any of these people. However, though, there is a certain group of individuals, human beings, you are allowed to bash and hate and be racist towards. Yeah, you guessed it. White people. But the only difference is that having hate against this particular group of people is not considered racism by the majority of the society. What is it called again? There is a word. Yeah, prejudice. And it is okay to be prejudiced towards white people. At least that is what the majority of our society wants us to believe.
The next person who has the sheer nerve, the sheer entitled caucasity to say all lives matter, I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna stab you. And while you're struggling and bleeding out, I'm gonna show you my paper cut and say, my cut matters too.
Genuinely did not know this, but cracker apparently is a slur used to oppress white people and silence them. Like, I had no idea that you guys were being called cracker, taffy, 8 Mile, albino, Betty, crocker, cracker jack, dog, fucker, egg, pasty, ghost, hick, hillbilly, Keebler, Mayflower, mayonnaise. Like, shit. Like, it's been used to oppress and silence you. Like, damn, I wish it worked. Shut the fuck up.
Well, there we go again. These are the same type of people that will go around chanting, "Stop Asian hate, stop Asian hate." Yet here she is perpetuating white hate. If a white person so much as mentions that all lives matter, which is supposed to be a generally positive statement because all lives really do matter, including hers, because she doesn't have to be black for her life to matter. But she says if you were to be Caucasian and you told her or you said that all lives matter, she will stab you. She seriously will stab you, and I believe her. According to her, she will stab any Caucasian individual who believes that all lives matter. Yet, she is not the racist one. White people are the only ones that are racist. What a world we live in nowadays. She says all this and yet nobody is outraged about it. In fact, she got a lot of kudos from people who think like her. Awesome. I am really sick and tired of all this nonsense. I am just fed up with this BS. Apparently, this woman is a Harvard graduate. Yeah, and she works with a notable company. And unfortunately for her, her job got wind of her dangerous behavior online and they fired her immediately.
The job that I...
Is that cool? That's what you want to see, right? If you want to get cancelled, that's what you want to see people get cancelled for being a-holes, right? For being people being violent and vile like her, right? Like she's like so vile, right? And so hateful, and to see that she got her comeuppance, right? Yeah, exactly. Final VGR gives us a clap, laughing emoji. Yeah. And it's just like, why should people hire you to work for them if you're out there doing this sort of stuff? It's like all those people who are laughing for Palestine, all right? And like holding up terrorist signs and stuff, saying terrorist slogans. And basically, if they were there, if they were, if they found themselves on the other end of the stick, oh my goodness, imagine how quickly they'll be running for, for help. I mean, I've been a victim of violence, right? That's why I'm always like talking about stuff like this, because I know what it's like to come to a point where you're about to lose your life at the hands of somebody else, right? To somebody just like 3 times, about 2.5, 3 times my size, right? And having so much hate in him that like I don't matter, right? And then realizing that like, well, there are so many other people like that around, and it doesn't matter who, and it doesn't matter what color of your skin it is, and it just hate is hate. And I think there's a lot of people that just like, and I don't even think it had to do with racism or anything at all like that. I think it's just had to be with like just a human being, right? Just evil person. And I just happened to be the target that night, walking home at 9 o'clock, right? Trying to make my way home. And I happened to be just cross this path, just like this person, right? Like imagine meeting her and you're a white dude and you're just walking on the street and she's like, next person I see, I'm going to stab. Now, that reminds me of like, everybody was trying to cancel, I think it was Sean Connery or I think it was Sean Connery, or was it Roger Moore? I can't remember, one of the James Bonds. Oh, no, it was a guy, it wasn't James Bond, it was a guy from Taken, right? He got in a lot of crap. They almost tried to cancel him for saying something that he was thinking in the 60s because a black dude had raped his friend, his female friend. And so he was so full of hate, though he didn't do it. He was saying like, that's how hateful I had been at that point, that if any black person had come across me, I would have like murdered them or whatever. I would have like beaten them up. I would have destroyed them. Yet he didn't, because he realized that, that's just somebody out, it's just a human being, right? And I think that a lot of times people don't come to that, that point like, hey, that's another life there. That's somebody else's father. That's somebody else's son. That's somebody else's brother. That's somebody else's husband, right? Or uncle or nephew, and I think that's where we've gotten to, where people don't think like that. It's close to, right? Not much, but there are a lot of people around now who think like that life doesn't matter. We've gotten to a point where we think that life, has no meaning, or like there's no value to it, I should say, not meaning, but value to it, right? So we behave in a certain way because of that. So this lady, she got her comeuppance. She got fired, right? After all that vile stuff, she got fired. Let's put back up here.
Awesome. I am really sick and tired of all this nonsense. I am just fed up with this BS. Apparently, this woman is a Harvard graduate. Yeah, and she works with a notable company. And unfortunately for her, her job got wind of her dangerous behavior online, and they fired her immediately.
The job that I had worked really hard to get and meant a lot to me just called me and fired me because of everything. I don't know if everyone's seen, but it's been circulating a lot. My Black Lives Matter TikToks were picked up by conservatives and spread and shared, and people were demanding that I be fired, which I just got. My job that I worked really hard for.
See, as you can see, the more you fuck around, the more you're gonna find out.
Trump supporters took my job away from me, but now it's
No, Trump supporters didn't take your job away from you. Your bosses took your job away from you because you're a hateful person towards white people. That's what it comes down to. That if you're out there saying that the next white person I see, I'm going to stab them, that white people don't have no value to them, that they're like this, their life is worthless in your eyes, that not all lives matter, right? You say like, all lives don't matter to you. So that means that your bosses who are probably friggin' white, or your managers, or your receptionists and stuff saw it and went like, this is a vile person. We don't want them working in our business, representing us out there. Fired. And that's basically, in that case, yeah, I'm all for that. Like, imagine being around that person working, right? Wow. I mean, nobody put it out there. You put it out there, lady. You put it out there. That's how vile you were, how evil you were. You're all for the black people, but nobody else, right? You're like, you're all the Indians. You were for me. You were for everybody else, but you weren't for the white people. Yet you're in predominantly a white country. Your business, the place of work is probably owned by a white person, and majority of the workers there are white people. Because, like, really, ratio-wise, you can find out. Just do a quick Google search to find out how many per capita, how many white people, how many Indians, how many Asians, how many black people are actually in the U.S.
like my future is entirely compromised because Trump supporters have decided to come for my life.
No, once again, you did it. None of those Trump supporters came out and hunted you down and made you, and like held you against your will in like a kidnap video and made you freaking, say all those vile things over and over again. You did it. You put it out there on TikTok. It's now you got, like they say, right? Like, you got to take your responsibility for your actions, right? And now you're having, you got the responsibilities for it, which is you got fired, and you probably will end up being nothing wrong with it, because I used to be, short order cook or dishwasher. I've done that as well. It's quite actually cool. I just did some dishes this morning, kind of therapeutic. That's where you're going to end up. Maybe even garbage. When people, collecting garbage, I don't mind that either. I pick up stuff on the road whenever I see it, right? But the fact is, when you put hate out into the world, it's going to come back at you. All right? Like I always say, right? Like there's only two things I live by: do unto others, or one golden rule, right? The golden rule: do unto others what I want them to do to me. And you didn't want to do that. You basically wanted to create hate all around you, right? And you wanted other people to hate as well. And so now you're getting punished for that. What was that? Consequences, right?
Life. God, this sucks. You guys suck.
What? Trump supporters took your job away from you?
Oh.
This is delusion on steroids. Blaming Trump supporters for the consequences of your own actions. How in the world did Trump supporters have anything to do with you threatening to stab anyone, specifically Caucasian people who say that all lives matter? Did Trump supporters put those words in your mouth? Was it Trump supporters who put that hate for white people in your heart? Was this not you in this clip? But instead of her taking responsibility for her actions, acknowledging that it was wrong of her to threaten people, she would rather play the victim and blame Trump supporters for her predicament. Sorry to burst your bubble, madam, but you brought this on yourself. And I must say that you deserve the punishment you received. I know you were trying to act all woke and pander to some black people. Well, congratulations, you succeeded. Because even though you were fired from your job for your bigotry, at least other woke black radicals accepted you into their cult.
Hi guys, give me your attention for 1 second. What happened to Clara Janover is disgusting. I cannot believe her job fired her over speaking out against Black Lives Matter while simultaneously saying they stand against systematic racism and minorities being discriminated against. That's awful. I cannot believe the Trump supporters used this narrative that she was being serious about.
Yeah, a bunch of brainwashed, irresponsible, and delusional individuals were claiming she was fired for fighting for Black Lives Matter. Listen to that clip again.
The next person who has the sheer nerve, the sheer entitled caucasity to say all lives matter, I'm gonna stab you. I'm gonna stab you. And while you're struggling and bleeding out, I'm gonna show you my paper cut and say, my cut matters too.
Genuinely did not know this, but cracker apparently is a slur used to oppress white people and silence them. Like, I had no idea that you guys were being called cracker, taffy, 8 Mile, albino, Betty, crocker, cracker jack, dog, fucker, egg, pasty, ghost, hick, hillbilly, Keebler, Mayflower, mayonnaise. Like, shit. Like, it's been used to oppress and silence you. Like,
remember, like, I don't even want to say it. Like, I was just thinking, like, the CC. And if you guys know my first girlfriend, like, who I still think about, right? You know, your first ones you always think about, no matter how old you get, was Taiwanese, you know, and she was amazing. And it was just like, and I'm thinking, like, how would she feel hearing this person talk like that? You know, like being so hateful and stuff. But the other side of the coin is this, like, she would scream racism and blue murder if she heard the CC word, right? And or anything like, you know, anti-Chinese or any sort of slang, right? Even if one, she would be crying her eyes out, because that's the type of people, you know, these people, you know, people like her are like, where like even a single thing will break them, right? Like she would need her safe space, but she will make sure that nobody else feels safe around her. It's kind of sad. Like, I think it's I think in the last 4 years, or actually no, I guess maybe in the last, since 2016, every big, you know, like especially in America, and it kind of spread out. And this is what I think a lot of Americans don't realize, and a lot of people want to ignore, is that whatever happens in America, it spreads out into the rest of the world, right? It totally spreads out. Music, movies, culture, it all goes out into the rest of the world. The English-speaking world, we just eat it up. And so if like America leadership is bad, the world kind of like becomes bad. And you notice in the last 4 years how bad the world has gotten, right? So many wars, right? You know, and then like, so when you have a weak leader in America, then you have a weak world in the West. A lot of people, you know, start playing up. But when you have a strong leadership, and you saw, and you know, and I can give or take Trump, but I do, you know, I do appreciate what he stands for, which is he says what he says and he does what he says. And anybody who does that is right, you know, good in my books, because we've gotten used to. Thank you, Fred. Cheers for hanging out, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, so you know, we've gotten used to, and there's something I actually talked to an elderly gentleman, right, about. I said, like, he was like, "Oh, Trump's this." I don't like the way he talks. I'm like, our generation is so tired of people talking like, politicians especially talking nice, and then doing the opposite. And it's so refreshing to have someone talk rude and in your face and direct about stuff, and actually say and be true and truthful about it, right? It's like, I mean, I remember like in 2018 when I came back and I had a sabbatical, sort of thing, 2 years of kind of like depression, and just decided, well, I can't be like that anymore. And if I come back, I want to be straight and direct. I'm not going to try to pussyfoot around. Is what we call it, like walking softly. I don't want to be walking around in eggshells. I don't want to be like, all nice about everything and just, I'm going to be more direct. I'm not going to be hiding behind like my niceties anymore, because it felt like I was like letting everybody walk over me. It felt like I was like, yeah, it's okay, and like inside I was seething, because it's like, you don't want to become like that either, because then it becomes inward, right? Or like we saw that guy in Sweden, outward, or that guy in Ireland, outward, knocking on people's door and stabbing them, right? Yesterday. So yeah, and this is the thing about this, right? And this lady's, and she's talking about stabbing people, especially white people, right? Only white people she's thinking about, right? That she hates.
Like, damn, I wish it worked. Shut the.
Is this what you call speaking out against Black Lives Matter? Are you okay with statements like this? Being openly racist to a group of people is a way of speaking out against Black Lives Matter. This speaks volumes. Now, I am happy that this time around, this woman is bearing the consequences of her actions, because we have almost forgotten how necessary it is to punish racist people. She thought she would get the privilege that Black people usually get when they go about spreading racism against white people. She thought she would get the immunity that Black racists get. But instead, she was immediately reminded that she is Asian, and that unlike Black people, Asians who perpetuate racism towards other races are more likely to be punished for it. So I'm glad that she was dealt with, at least by the company she works for. And I pray that other racist individuals will be dealt with accordingly. If she was Black and she made those same remarks, I doubt she would have been punished at all. But that is something I want to see change, okay? If racism is bad, I believe anyone who practices it should be punished accordingly. Be you white, red, black, blue, pink, purple, whatever. If you go around spewing hate against any group of people based on their race or ethnicity, I think you should be dealt with. Again, I am happy she found out after effing around. The same treatment and standard should apply to everybody, no matter your race or ethnicity. In my opinion, that is the first step to ending racism, punishing people who do racist things. As always, guys, these are my...
So that is Modi Talks. And give her a follow. Now, I want to look at where was it? Yeah, let's do something a bit different. So this is music related and has to do with UNICEF. And I hate UNICEF, but like oh, it's loud. So, and I also dislike black metal, right? Like so let me bring this up. But I thought this was cool little story. Even though I do not like black metal, like I just don't. But even though I'm a metalhead, I think that's just one type of music that I just cannot kind of like enjoy. It's just too dark for me. All right, so this is there's a band called Behemoth, right? And if I remember right, they're Norwegian.
Decades, the extreme metal band Behemoth has been engrossed in controversy, but recently they faced a new challenge. In 2023, they decided to give back by selling limited edition behemoth-themed black teddy bears, with all proceeds intended to go to UNICEF Poland in an effort to help children in need. But their good intentions hit a roadblock when they were told they could not donate due to the nature of their message. It seems the organization would rather refuse the nearly $2,500 US than to be associated with the black and death metal band. Nedga and the band were furious, but despite the setback, Behemoth refused to back down. They found another worthy cause, the largest children's hospital in their hometown of Gdańsk, who were happy to accept the donation. In the end, their determination prevailed, and they were able to make a positive impact. Just like in their music, Behemoth proves that overcoming adversity is all part of the journey. As Nedga would say, we are part of that force that wills evil, but produces good. For decades, the extreme metal...
So that was pretty cool. It was like, I guess, in a sense, like, you know, I'm like, well, it's not like they were giving the black teddy bears to them, right? They were giving them money. And so, you know, and it's not like UNICEF's like some sort of like moral high ground, right? I mean, they're like being their leaders or their workers have been known to be abusing children, right? Like mess. And they got caught. And also UN, right? We're basically in UMRA, right, which is United Nations Refugee Work Association, whatever. We're actually housing terrorists, right, and teaching to hate, teaching anti-Israeli school system, right? That we're going to look at that in the future. Yeah. So, but the reason I want to share that is that, okay, so even though I don't like black metal, death metal, I mean, when I was in my like 20s, I used to listen to hardcore like death metal and stuff. And one of my friends reminded me, like, when I was like, I don't like death metal. I was like, and then I was like, weeks later, I was like, actually, I used to have death metal. When you're younger, you just consume as much music as you can. But like over years, you refine your taste. But like, so these guys basically got these black teddy bears made up, sold it, to their fans, people who actually like the music, and took the money, and we're going to give it to UNICEF. And then UNICEF goes, nah, you guys are horrible death metalheads. We don't want it. It's like, we're not giving you our music. We're not giving you our black teddy bears, right? Because our fans already bought that. This is where the money's coming from, right? From our fans. Because we said we're going to give it to charity. And so our fans backed it, right? It wasn't like, we're giving it from us. It's actually our fans are giving it on their behalf, kind of thing, right? Or on our behalf, whatever. The cool thing is when they declined that, their own, like in Poland where they live, right? They're from their own town, right? Their own city. They were able to give it to a children's hospital that was in their own city, and that's pretty cool because I think this goes back to, right? Don't try to like affect charity elsewhere, right? People's lives elsewhere. When you do it at home, if charity starts at home. There's a reason why people say that, because when you take care of your own, out of that, people will take care of other people. It'll flow out, right? And it's why, like, I think a lot of times people like when you go, oh, I just want to change the world. It's like, no, I don't want to change the world. I want to change my community, right? And there's like people protesting safely in the West. Like right now, the people are talking about how Congo people are killing each other, tribes are killing each other, their own other Africans, Congolese are killing each other. Yet in the UK, they want to protest at the parliament, at the prime minister's house, whatever, that nothing's been done in the Congolese. Well, it's your freaking Congolese people who are doing this. Why aren't you telling your own Congolese people to stop killing each other, right? And violence against each other? Why are you expecting somebody else to take over of it all the freaking time? Which is what leads me into what we're going to talk about now. Kind of like a good segue is the theme of the day, which is Africa. Now, let's start with here we go. Let's try this one. No, that's not it. at the one. Here we go. All right. Like I said, there was like there was so much. Hold on, buddy. Hold on. So it's been a week and a bit, right? So I've been grabbing so many links. So there was like a whole pile of them under this thing. So halfway down, this is where we start. Because like the other top half of it was like from just this week. This is what I've been grabbing for the last couple of months. Well, last 2 months, I should say. But this is recent. Like this is just came like a month ago, right? So let's look at this. So $50 billion was given over to Africa, and not just Africa.
Videos from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, showed Chinese people being beaten by locals. Many of the locals appeared very emotional. Another video from earlier this year shows 2 Chinese individuals in the DRC with their hands tied to a rack, left under the sun while being watched and insulted by local onlookers. Why are Chinese people being treated this way in the DRC? What happened? According to Reuters, on December 20th, during a press conference in Bukavu, South Kivu, a conflict-prone province in the DRC, the government announced that 17 Chinese men were arrested for allegedly operating illegal gold mines. These individuals were seated in chairs, not tied up, and did not speak to reporters. Bernard Muhindo, the finance minister and acting minister of mines, stated that on the 19th, a government delegation conducted an unannounced visit to a mining site in Karhembo village, leading to the arrests. Muhindo explained that the Chinese men did not provide any company documents or certificates. He added that there were about 60 Chinese people at the site. Officials detained 17 individuals who appeared to be in charge, along with some people from the DRC and neighboring Burundi. The Chinese embassy in Kinshasa did not immediately respond to Reuters' request for comment. The Burundian embassy said it was waiting for more information from the Chinese representative in Bukavu. An article by the Business and Human Rights Resource Center, published on November 26 this year, stated that under DRC mining laws, foreigners are prohibited from engaging in artisanal mining. However, Chinese companies bypass this ban by partnering with local cooperatives, avoiding federal taxes. There is growing discontent among the Congolese people and government over Chinese gold companies operating illegally in the...
So basically what she's saying is that like the Chinese went in and talked to the community people and, you know, bribed some people. And those people, the Congolese people, right, the Africans, right, said, okay, thank you for the bribes, took the bribes, and the Chinese people moved in and started working, you know, started the mining and stuff, which, you know, which they do all the time, right? If you look at Australia, they had $100,000 in a black rubbish bag. I think about 4 years ago during an election, they wanted to get somebody elected. So one of the Chinese people went across. One of the spies basically went in to the was it like senator's house? They have senators. We don't have senators in New Zealand, you know. And you guys, of course, in America, elsewhere, you know, you guys have senators, but we don't have senators. So like we have MPs and stuff. So basically, he went into an MP's office and, you know, and got caught. And so, you know, and basically that's what, you know, these guys did over there in Congo, handed over some money, and they, you know, they got the go ahead to start mining. Of course, according to, you know, to their government, to the, you know, Democratic Republic of Congo, right? You have to go through the government to get the permits so that everything is above board. Same thing happens, you know, in the West, like anywhere you got to do above board. But some people don't like to, you know, like I've said many times here on this channel, that like this saying that the Chinese have is, if you can cheat, cheat, right? They have it. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know how it's said in Cantonese or Mandarin, so I'm not going to try it. But that's what it comes down to. They have a saying: if you can cheat, cheat. And so they decided to cheat here because they wanted the gold, and they gave them a couple $100,000 or whatever, right? Maybe not even that much, because hey, if you're poor, you'll take what, you know, whatever looks good, right? To a rich man, $50 million looks okay. To a poor man, $1 million looks really good, or even 50,000 looks really good. So if you're a poor person living in a community and they want to dig up a friggin' hole and make a gold mine, what do you care, right? You're gonna get your money and leave. You gotta take your family. All right, guys, get in the Land Rover. This brand new Land Rover we just bought. Pack up, let's go. Sadly, people got a wind of it.
This ban by partnering with local cooperatives, avoiding federal taxes. There is growing discontent among the Congolese people and government over Chinese gold companies operating illegally in the eastern region. Allegedly, they damage the environment and violate the rights of African.
Now, this is very friggin' important, right? The fact that they damage the environment. And little old New Zealand with 5.5 million people have to pay a tariff, right? A fee for destroying the world's environment. And we're like number 30 on the list of the world's most pollutants, right? We're not even the top 30, right? But we, as a little friggin' island, have to pay to the same amount, like per capita, that everybody else has to. Yet we're not even part of that whole pollutant thing. We don't even pollute to any level. Yet China basically pollutes everything, everywhere they go, right? Yet, and this is what really pisses me about China and all the environmentalists around the world, in the West especially. They want to protest how terrible New Zealand is, how terrible America is, or how terrible Aussie is. But none of them have the balls or a backbone to go and protest all the Chinese companies that are doing it. None of them, right? They don't even give about it. Yet they will stand on our streets and talk about gas, on our roads about gas this, gas that. That's why I have no love for those idiots, right? Because they would protest what we do here. They'll protest against our farmers, or our rivers this, our rivers that. We are not even anywhere near the top 30, right, of the pollutants in the world. Yet we have to pay money into the same coffers that goes to pockets of the rich, right? People who handle that. Like we found out with Trump, right? With Doge, right? We found out where all that billions of dollars that American taxpayers that they needed during FEMA, during Hawaii, right? During Ohio, when the trains crashed, when the waters got polluted. Seriously, now we know where all that money went because, well, it didn't go to the places that needed them. So yeah, and the same thing with New Zealand, right? All these people always go, well, you know what? You're a farming community. Your cows shit and your cows poo. Fat, and so it's ruining the environment. You mean for hundreds, thousands of years, cows have been fighting and nothing's happened, and now all of a sudden, just because our cows are fighting and our sheep are fighting, because we're a farming community or land country, now we have to pay. But not about all those people that are burning all that rubbish, all the petroleum, or not petroleum, or offshoots of petroleum, like plastics and stuff like that, right? All the poison gas that goes into the air from China, right? All the damage they do to the environment. No, New Zealand has to do that, right? Australia has to do that. The Pacific Islands has to pay for it. Why? Oh, because you know why? So that we can't get ahead. Because you suck our life out of us every little time. It's people actually, I'll leave that for another time, because I wanted to do a video on this, especially because someone finally spoke up in New Zealand about all the money that every year gets paid out to the Maori community, and then those Maori leaders who get paid take that money and buy brand new cars. Someone actually spoke up from a village that I grew up in, a little town, right, called Moerewa. So we'll talk about that some other time. But really, look, these guys are tearing it up. They do not care about the environment. Chinese do not. Like I said, if you can cheat. That's the number one thing, right? Amongst whatever else there is. But look at them just tearing up. Do you think those trees are going to get planted again? No. Nothing here is going to be. It's going to be all, they're going to take their bit and they'll be gone, and all the waterways will be polluted. We've seen it happen in China. If they do, if they do that to their own country, do you think they're going to care about some friggin' African village, some town, some community?
And miners. The large-scale mining activities by Chinese companies have caused environmental destruction, with toxic chemicals like cyanide and mercury polluting local water sources.
There you go.
The article noted that gold production in South Kivu surged from 42 kilograms in 2022 to over 5,000 kilograms in 2023, accounting for about 1/6 of the country's official production. However, the total amount of gold exported from the DRC is consistently underreported, as several tons are smuggled through.
The amount of damage that sort of like poison going into the land, it's like salting the land. Like nothing will grow there. Animals will not be able to survive there. All the pollutants that goes into the friggin' trees and stuff, like if they're still, it'll go into the environment, right? Into the roots, it'll destroy all of them, all the trees, all the plants. Not, and the fact that most of it isn't reported, all right, what they're taking out, the gold that just goes. I remember I was writing, like, as you know, I'm a writer, right? So a couple of years back, I was writing a gangster style series based in Fiji, like a half-an-hour TV show type thing, right? And I had all worked out, and it was gonna, who was gonna be the lead and all that. It was gonna carry on from this comic book that I was gonna write. I decided to write it later. Like it was like it starts with a movie and it goes into like an hourly show, 45 minutes, whatever, right? And it was based around like how there's in IYKYK in PG, there's a gold mine, right? And the idea was that there's a family of criminals who basically, under the cover of night, whatever, like get their family members export out, through customs, the gold by bribing the customs people. So it's just another metal, or it's just pots and pans, right? Whatever you want to do. You just, you shape it into a pot or a pan, right? They do with like right now they've been doing with like they've been shaping. They found in I think South America. They found, or was it here? I think they found here that they've been shaping like meths, like drugs into like white powder, porcelain, bowls, china bowls and stuff like that, dolls and stuff. And so that's how they've been trying to get through immigration and customs. So that was my idea, right? Like they could shape into that sort of stuff or whatever, and they could smuggle it out. And this is how every time this sort of stuff happens, like there's a network of people willing to take a little bribe along the way. Everybody takes cut, and all the way to China, right? Or wherever. Like diamonds been like that forever, right? The black diamonds and stuff. Like if you watch, is it called Black Diamond? That movie? Or was it Black Diamond? I think it was had Leonardo in it. Was it Black Diamond? I think it had Leonardo in it. It wasn't that long ago either. He had the guy from Chihuahua? No, I think it was the guy from Gladiator, the original Gladiator, not this new one. That's basically the same thing. What was his name in it? Dimonji. I think Digimon Hansu. Which one were you in, dude? Yeah. Oh, Blood Diamond. Yeah, here we go. See, I knew it wasn't there. So yeah. So let's get to that. Like, show you this one, right? So this was Leonardo was in it as well. So I remember watching this. It was a good film. Actually, I remember like I got done for playing IMDb video So let me just play a video of of YouTube, the trailer for it. It's worth watching. It is a pretty good movie, I must say. It's done well. And Leonardo did a good job. It's one of the ones where he actually did. I actually enjoyed watching him. I've never seen Beach or The Beach.
It came from the heart of the earth. A stone so rare, men will do anything to possess it. And all who
Jennifer
touch
Connelly.
it are left with blood on their hands.
That diamond is my ticket out of this God-forsaken continent.
So what are you?
Smuggler? You're a journalist. Some tell me you're here to make a difference, huh?
And you're here to make a buck?
You know, in America it's bling bling, but out here it's bling bang. Where did you bury it? The only reason you're still alive is because you haven't told anyone where it is.
You will find it for me.
My son! Where is my son?
What if I helped you find your family? That makes us partners!
I am not your partner!
You're using him.
I'm using him, and you are using me, and this is how it works.
You're gonna steal this diamond.
I am his father! I must go find him!
You can show us where it's hidden.
That diamond's the only chance he has of getting his son back.
What if I wanted to go with you?
I don't give a damn who's down there. Kill them all.
Give it to me.
Daddy, where it is? Daddy!
My family, my home, I don't lost everything! I will find you. If it takes my life.
That was Blood Diamond is a really, really, really good movie. And it really shows you, like, desperation of, African people, right? Like, I mean, anywhere. Like, I mean, you can see people trying to cross us to get, to the West, right? And like I said, the communities will, sell each other to get ahead, to get their family ahead. Now, I was looking at he actually got nominated for an Oscar for a supporting role for that movie. Because I remember that. Like, I was like, did he get an Oscar for that, or what was the deal? Because I remember he did a really cool, he should have got an Oscar for that. Did a fantastic job, but he was nominated, right? Best performance by an actor. Yeah. And the other thing is, like, I mean, he's a great actor. He's one of, a favorite supporting actor action, right? He was also an Amistad as well. Digimon Hansu, it's like, he's a really good, he's a great actor, I must say. It's awesome. He really brings it. It's kind of like if this was like always like 90s or 80s, he would be like the man, right? He would be like he would like be like was it Blade? I can't remember. It's like, yeah, Wesley Snipes. He'll be like Wesley Snipes, right? They'll be like, he'll have a action movie every like 6 months. Now, because that's how good he is. Now let's get back to this gold in Africa. So yeah, it's a smuggling, right?
accounting for about 1/6 of the country's official production. However, the total amount of gold exported from the DRC is consistently underreported, as several tons are smuggled through neighboring eastern countries into the global supply chain. Hundreds of foreign companies mine gold in South Kivu, with most of them being Chinese. Local authorities say that these companies operate without licenses, fail to report profits, and often use armed guards to keep government officials and journalists away. On July 3rd this year, a militia group in the DRC attacked a gold mine in the northeast, killing 6 Chinese miners and 2 Congolese soldiers. According to the Associated Press, Jean-Robert Basiloko, a member of the local civil society group, said the attack targeted the village of Gambala in Ituri province and the nearby Camp Blanquette gold mine. The militia group Codeco, standing for Cooperative of the Development of Congo, claimed responsibility for the attack. The eastern region of the DRC is rich in mineral resources. For about a decade, government forces have been engaged in ongoing battles with over 120 armed groups, and the conflict has escalated in recent months. In the fight for control over
And this, like, Africa has always been this way. It's nothing new. The tribes fight each other constantly all the time, right? And outside entities, right, are only willing to less Africans, right? And the other thing is, like, some overlord wants to do something, right, to be in control, like just so that trailer from Blood Diamond, basically the same thing, right? You know, when the Houthis and Tutsis, yeah, I think it was Houthis and Tutsis, like only like about 2 decades ago, where they were like basically slaughtering each other, right? I think I'm not sure if it was the Houthis that just went into the village, started chopping everybody up. It was like, I don't even want to mention it, but it was just really, really bad. Entire families like were just destroyed. Children, babies, right? Adults, elderly, women, just wiped out. And this is, you know, and like the one thing is like the new African activists, all they want to do is blame white people. They go, oh, it's all the West people. It's all the white people. It's all the West people's fault. Right? It's all that. At the end of the day, it's a black on black crime. All day long, forever. Right? Anytime somebody, you know, decides they want to be in power, they start wiping somebody else out. One gang starts up, they go, oh, we're going to take up the other gang. Oh no, then you got the gang's, you know, the boss, right? It's usually the same thing. It's crime, right? Yet we hardly hear about it because most time it's not talked about because that's not the cool thing, right? Not the in thing. You know, they'll spend like what else is thought of my brain, like Russiagate for like a whole 4 years, right? But they won't talk about anything happening in Africa because, well, it's up to you to find out. That's why, like, I think the other day, like, you know, somebody said to me, like, oh, you know, you just watch Fox News and you watch CNN. It's like, I don't watch any of that shit. My information comes from independent journalists, people who are outside the mainstream reporting, because I can see, you know, behind the scene, behind the curtain, right? Not what everybody just has that 5 minutes to talk about, or that 1 minute they go like a news bite. No, we get to look at the whole thing in long thing. And this is what I like about, like, you know, I talk about the internet all the time and how great it is to be alive in this generation, right? With the technology, we can listen to a whole hour somebody talk about something, and then we can figure out if they're lying or not, right? You can watch my thing and go, well, you know, you can either take it or leave it, right? And like you know, when I have time, I do time codes so that you can actually skip ahead. If I bore the shit out of you, you can go, well, what else is he saying, right? Or what other topics is, you know? So the thing is, like, we're so used to people only talking 5 minutes and it's over, and then what they tell you is a bit of the truth with a whole bit of lies. Now we can see behind the scene, right? We can see whole hours and 2-3 hours about them, and we can talk about subjects more in depth, and we learn about that, right? So that's why, like they say, mainstream legacy media is dying and is probably basically dead, really. The only people that watch it are people who don't don't have internet or don't want to go out to what use, right? Like when I wake up, I'm like straight on the internet. I don't watch TV at all. I don't think I've watched TV in probably a decade, maybe even 2 decades now, right? It's just turn on the internet, turn on YouTube, look at all, who's doing lives or who's talking about what, and what's going on around the world. And so we don't have to like wait for, the 6 o'clock news or the midday news. You can watch news any time of day, any hour or half hour or whatever, even 15 minutes sometime, right? Depending on which channel it is. And now people can actually give you the news without actually taking a bias. And it goes, this is what happened. Okay, next one. Not like, oh, this is what I think, where it at. I mean, except for live streams, like you're going to get opinions, right? But when you're actually talking to these guys giving you the news, it's the news.
Over gold mines and other resources, militia groups in the region frequently launch violent attacks, including bombing civilians.
Yeah. Their own people. Like I said, they're killing their own people all the friggin' time, all day long. There's no structure to them. Government's in power, but the militias are controlling them. Controls the mines, controls the friggin' minerals. That's why they never get ahead, because it's all black marketed out. There's no money going back into the country, no tax dollars going back into the country, so they stay poor. Right? And then they go to open the handout. China, help me. Those white people are bad now. We don't want America. We don't want Britain. We don't want UK. We don't want the French. They're all white. They're all bad. We like you now. Now you be our husband. You be our daddy. Big Daddy China. Right?
2021, the DRC joined China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. In recent years, conflicts between local communities and Chinese mining companies over gold extraction have become more frequent. Several Chinese citizens have been killed in the DRC during these disputes. Local residents accuse Chinese mining operations of threatening their security. And
so the government, Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, opens up their country, right, to China and goes, hey, maybe this will help us get on the level, get money in. However, they don't realize that China doesn't really care about their nation. They just want the goods. Thank you. I will just take that, all right? As cheap as we can, all right? Yeah. They don't tell them, oh, we're taking 5, but we're taking 5. And then actually we're taking 500. But you made the deal, so you're going to have to stick with it. And now their own people are suffering. And it's like, well, you can't blame the whites anymore, buddy. But they do. I've watched a channel on here. It's called the African Diaspora. All the time, there's like, they try to like anti-white, anti-West all the time. It's like, but like, you guys made the bed, right? You decided to kick everybody, the white people out, right? You're killing them, but now you're, taking their land and everything, and so nobody wants to work the land. It's really always funny that like people want the land, but they never want to work it. They rather just take the profit off it, especially in these communities. I've been around some of them, right? And they don't really want to do the work. They just want to sit back and eat it up. They want to reap the rewards, but not do the work. And these guys are like the Chinese are forcing, using militias to make the villagers do the work. And this is where you're going to have like lots of child abuse, because you're going to have lots of children having to be forced into doing it. Say dad's crippled, right? Arms not working. Well, your son's going to do it now, right? No school. Usually the way it goes, man, it's like it's a standard. It's a standard. Where there's militia, it's a standard. Everybody works.
and protests have continued. In response to the repeated killings of Chinese citizens in the DRC, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs has consistently issued strong condemnations, a standard response for the past decade.
So they've been there for a decade, right? The Chinese, unless you're part of the CCP, the ruling government for life, right? The Communist Party, Communist People's Party, CCP, you don't matter. It was shown recently, like we watched that video about those people who were like, we're being trafficked by Chinese into Myanmar, right? They didn't care until there was a big, huge hoopla on their version of TikTok, right? And then because it was an actor, right? Famous celebrity person, that then they acted. Apart from that, it was like, yeah, nobody gave a shit. Those people were being tortured and kept against their will. They were having all their money stolen from them. Their parents were having to send them money, hundreds of thousands a year, right? And kids, they wouldn't be released until they were gone. But it was Chinese that were doing it. So here, when Chinese are dying, they don't care. Send another Chinese in, right? Because they're not part of the elite. So if you're not part of the elite, you don't matter. And that's communism 101. The ruling party is all that matters. Everybody else is just sheep, cattle to be used up and thrown away once their usefulness is over, right?
While China's exploitation of mineral resources in the DRC under the Belt and Road Initiative draws attention for disregarding the safety of its citizens, China has also made notable moves in Kenya. Recently, the Chinese embassy in Kenya invited around 70 journalists and editors from Kenya's national broadcaster to participate in training sessions, describing the goal as promoting professionalism and integrity in journalism. According to Voice of America on the 16th, media advocates see this as ironic because in the 2024 Global Press Freedom Index, China ranks 172 out of 180 countries. China also holds the record for imprisoning the most journalists globally and enforces
People always moan about the West and censorship and stuff. And anti-journalism things, stuff like that. Or you're shutting the journalists up and stuff. It's like recently, right? Was it like Trump basically opened up the White House to like non-established journalists, right? Like not like CNN and outside, like people, if you've got like a huge channel and you cover news, right? If you report on news, you're an independent journalist, right? And you cover news, then you can come in to the White House and you can ask questions. And they got really pissed off, right? Established like MSN and all that, CNN. Who else was like? I think probably Fox had a tiffy. I'm not sure, because these guys, they're there to ask the questions that they want to be like, come to watch my channel, right? Or watch our station, whatever, all right? But it was interesting to hear that, like, hey, it's open to everybody. And that's what you kind of want. You want to be able to go, if you do have a big, and hey, you're not going to like get someone like with 200 people watching to do that, right? You're going to have somebody who's got like a million following, right? And who's going to seriously cover and do really good journalism. Yeah, you're going to let that people in. And I'm all for that because that's awesome. Because the more openness that, a government and people have towards the government, right, then that's the way it's going to be better, because for everybody else around the world, like I said earlier, that where America leads, that's where the rest of the West follows, right? Not the rest of the world, but the West follows, because we kind of like, we see, and a lot of people don't like to admit it, but to be honest, I've known this for like 40 years. I'm like, since like 80s, no, 90s, I should say 90s, because when I realized how important, how much American entertainment we consumed, and culture we consumed, I realized back then in the 90s, late 80s, probably like early 90s, how important was America to the rest of the world. And even though people like to say, nah, America doesn't that, where America goes, it's like, it's like the rudder, right, on a big ship. The world, the west is a ship, and the rudder, guiding the ship is America. So if you don't, seeing that happen in the, in the White House with Trump and stuff, exposing all this, with Elon and whoever else, right? It's exposing all these terrible things that America's been doing, with the foreign aid money, is really awesome, because now there's all this openness about what's been going on, which has really affected the rest of the world, right? Because to be honest, it's like, when you see that from the outside, and I've been seeing it, probably like mid-20s, 2020, like 2005. I mean, like by mid-20s, I mean 2005, because when I did my film school, that's when I started really looking at foreign affairs and looking at how how countries can undermine, and how they can use soft power and stuff like that. And and I kind of use that from, like when I was looking at that, I use that into my stories, and like, making my characters like, and governments and agencies, whenever it came to that I would have some information, and it'd become more realistic. But it was quite interesting, because like it meant like now I'm seeing what I knew was happening for 60 years, but and read about, right, and listened to people talk about, now is actually seeing it in numbers, like being exposed. It's been really cool, because it just meant like it's kind of peace of mind. It's like nobody's going to believe this ever, and like suddenly, like everybody's like, yeah, it's been going on, and we just, it's been like what is it called, like open secret. But it's strange, because a lot of people in America didn't know that, didn't even think about that, because a lot of people don't want to look out behind the curtain. And the more you stop looking behind the curtain, the more, I know, ignorant we become. I mean, I know there's certain things I don't like to look behind, because I just don't want to, it'll drive me mad, right? And I don't want to be driven mad by by having too much knowledge, right, about certain things.
Some of the strictest media censorship laws. This is not the first time China has influenced African journalists under the guise of training. A researcher at the National Endowment for Democracy explained that the Chinese government invites African journalists to China for training, which often results in these journalists returning to write favorably about China. He said, when these journalists visit China, they are taught Chinese perspectives, such as the idea that China's media presence in Africa is helping Africa. African journalists end up being influenced by Chinese ideology. Brett Schaefer, a senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund in Washington and an expert on Chinese media influence, noted that China applies the same strategy not only in Africa, but also in Latin America.
Yeah.
He said, China is attempting to build relationships with journalists from the global south. Schaefer highlighted a clear difference between China's approach and that of Western countries like the US.
Now, Biden's America did that as well, right? With the foreign aid, right? Talk about comics, right? Everybody's been talking about comics. Like, they used $32,000 American to pay for a transgender, comic be made. And was it like Venezuela or something, like Argentina? And everybody's been like going crazy over there. I'm like, but like that's just one thing, right? Imagine like being given 32K US, and like a lot of comic book creators. I mean, like we did our one, we only made like $1,200 US, right? And it wasn't about like influencing somebody's, to get a sex change, right? Or trying to trans kids, right? Child abuse kids, right? Cut off their bits, right? Poison their lives forever, right? With chemicals. Not only their lives, their minds, right? Because kids are susceptible. But giving $32,000, that's like, actually that's 50K NZ. Right? That's a lot of money, right? That's like a whole year's worth of wages, for average, I guess it's the average worker, right? To create a comic book. Was it like a 32 page or something like that? But anyway, so but also in Sri Lanka, they were trying to like they paid a whole bunch like 50 something million dollars something like about having Sri Lankans learn how to like accept like multiple genders. Like Sri Lankans are Indians who are traditional Indian family people. So they wanted them to change their thinking and go against their own personal values. And a lot of Sri Lankans are either Hindus or Christians, Catholics mainly, right? Very traditional. But they wanted, that's why they spent so much money there to influence them. And so China's doing the same thing, right? The same thing Biden and Democrats were doing. China's doing the same thing, but they're doing with the truth, right? And paying them off, paying the journalists off and stuff to change things, change the narrative about China, about how China's good. A lot of things. I saw something interesting. It's like with the deep seek, and everybody's like, "Oh, America is trying to cancel this, stop these people from making money." It's like it's a Chinese government controlled, military based friggin' what do we call it, company that made DeepSeek using stolen and black market chips from around the world. And so you want to give money to that and you want to prop that up because America bad, right? And not even really thinking about like what that's going to do to how you receive the truth, right? Because already they found out that it's actually pro-China and you can't talk about things on there that might look kind of, ask DeepSeek, right? There, it's a copy of GPT, right? ChatGPT. Asks it about China, about troublesome, like what is it called? Like things that actually might make, that is truthful and historical, but they don't want you to know, or they don't want their own people to know, because then the people will turn against them, right? All the mass killings that's been happening in China, that they don't, and people are starving, and the latest is that 100 million young Chinese don't want to be married, don't want to have relationships or kids. And everybody's saying, like I was talking last week, like because I've been around people, like because wedding last week, and I've been talking to people that were at the wedding, and they were saying, oh, how China, there's it'll if ever China wanted to, they could like totally take over the world because they have so many people and they have so much intelligent people. They come up with so much ingenious stuff, and I'm like, it's all stolen. Right, all that tech is stolen. They've never created anything themselves apart from what the West has given to them. Because without the West, 30 years ago, they would still be eating grass, right, or bugs, because that's how bad it was 30 years ago for them. Before the West, before they opened up to the West, because they were literally starving. They reckon there's about 60 million people died under communism in China. Under Mao, because where there is communism, there's no creativity. There's no reason to you to do anything to better yourself, because the government will take whatever you created for themselves and leave you out in the dust. Now in the West, we're left to our own, right? If I decide to create something, it's up to me to safeguard it. I might even have legal aid to safeguard it, right? Or whatever. If I can afford a lawyer, I might make a deal with a lawyer to pay him later, right? I remember when I had my car accident, and I had to fight the government over payment, right? Oh, because like the government's thing basically came because, oh, it's because of it's because you got old, it's like wear and tear on your spine. It's like, that's got nothing to do with the fact that somebody hit me in the car. Right. I might have a broken leg that's been fixed, but then a car comes across and hits my leg again, and it's broken. That's not wear and tear. That's somebody, And so I actually went to a lawyer, and and he said went pro bono and fought on my behalf. I didn't even have to show up to court, man. Right? They went and won the case for me. I didn't even have to show up to court. The only time I did was like, oh, we were in a car accident, this what happened. Like, it was like a 10-minute thing, and that was it. Or half an hour thing. It was like that was about the insurance. That was actually the insurance, right? And because our car was, the person had blinged in there, and there were the two insurance companies were fighting over like who was at fault. And we said, like, we weren't at fault because we had stopped at a roundabout, right? And so like I said, in the West you have certain rights as a citizen. In communism you have no rights. They'll just take whatever they want. Oh, nice. Oh, that's a great design. Okay, hand it over. What about my compensation? Sorry. So that's why they've never been able to create anything of any worth. Everything is copied from the West. Everything, and this is the thing, that the stupidity of 30 years ago, right, when it opened up, everybody went, yeah, they've got so much labor, it'll be cheap labor, we'll do this and we'll do that. And now, as we've shown you guys over the videos, live streams over the last couple of months, probably about a year on and off, how the Western countries are leaving, because in the next decade or so, there will be the childbirth rate will be so bad that those 100 million young men who are not going to have kids, who are not going to get married, because it's so costly in China, because all their money, billions, is being sent over to Latin America and Africa and some Middle East countries and Central Asia, that those people in China, their own youth, can't afford to live or get married or have kids or afford a place to pay rent. So they're struggling to survive while all their billions of taxes, just like what Biden was doing, is going overseas. That's crazy, right? Like, seriously, imagine working your ass off, and the work that you've done and the taxes you had to pay is being given to somebody else. And then when it's your time for need, you're screwed. Like I said, what happened to Hawaii? What happened to Ohio, right? In the US, right? It's like I just think that a lot of people don't want to look behind the curtain, and
and those in Europe. He said, compared to the journalist training provided by the EU member states or the United States, which have independent and journalistic traditions and VPNs, this ulterior motive is even more obvious. It's obvious that China does not want to train independent and high-quality journalists. What they hope to achieve from this is to more actively promote China at all levels and local levels in Africa. He added that he has seen examples where...
And the reason for that is to make sure that they speak well of China. Right? That China good, America bad, UK bad, France bad. Look, China's your friend. Do what China says. I think I put up a video about how let me just check. I think I put up a video clip, because I do a lot of clips, right, throughout the day. Because whenever I'm like, I see something good, I think I find interesting, I check it out. So there was a little video, I'm not sure if I put it up or if I just saved it, where they were saying in let me see my playlist, where in this city or this town, like almost every business is owned by China. There's a Chinese owned business in Latin America. Now, what that does is, it means that they can hike up the prices. They can make sure that no local owners get to own that business, right? Or buy any, have any equity, future, leave for their kids, whatever. Because when you give up something like that, you ain't getting it back. Now, where are you? It was like, I think it was Latin America or something like. Let me just have a quick. I'll carry on playing this video while I look for it.
China at all levels and local levels in Africa. He added that he has seen examples where Chinese narratives are reproduced almost verbatim by African media outlets. One tactic is to influence the journalists themselves to make their reporting more favorable to China. Another is to find ways to publish Chinese information directly to these websites and media. In this way, the Chinese perspective is shared through trusted local journalists and local news media. Observers have noted that over the past decade, China has provided substantial loans to African countries for infrastructure development, making Africa a focal point of the BRI. However, this has also pushed many nations into China's debt trap, including Kenya. Reports indicate that Kenya borrowed $4.7 billion from China to build the BRI's Mombasa-Nairobi Railway. 5 years after its completion, the project has not brought prosperity to the country, but has
And this is what cracks me up. When you're a poor country taking huge loans in the billions, how are you going to pay it back, man? And the other thing about it, they don't even need this. This is about like, hey, we're coming up in the world. It's like putting on a $1 million convention in a town of 3,000 people. Oh, you're gonna get 3,000 people, and it's somebody from around, and they're not gonna have like $1 million to spend on it, because you gotta have to make 5 times that amount, so it's to actually make a profit, right? Because you got to pay all the bills, so or 3 times. So it's crazy, I think. And so now, these guys are stuck with unfinished work.
Instead, contributed to mounting debt and widespread corruption. Some Kenyan media outlets continue to praise Nairobi Railway and the Belt and Road Initiative. According to a report by Chinese state media CCTV in September, Bernard Momanyi, the editor-in-chief of Kenya's influential Capital FM, wrote in the My China Story essay contest that the railway benefits the public by providing convenience and driving economic growth along its route. He described China as a good role model and stated that Kenya should follow China's path. The report mentioned that Momanyi visited China twice at the invitation of the Chinese government. His brother also received a Chinese government scholarship, studied in China, and later found a satisfactory job there. In September, during the 9th Forum on China-Africa Cooperation held in Beijing, Chinese leader Xi Jinping announced that China would provide $360 billion in funding to African countries over the next 3 years. This includes loans, aid, and investments by Chinese enterprises. During the summit, Xi met with Kenyan President William Ruto. Several bilateral cooperation agreements on financing and infrastructure were signed. According to China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kenya is regarded as an important economic and trade partner and a demonstration country for production capacity cooperation in Africa. Kenya is China's largest trade partner in East Africa, while China is Kenya's largest trading partner and source of imports. Observers note that Xi Jinping, often criticized by Chinese citizens for ignoring domestic issues while recklessly spending abroad, does not extend these funds purely for Africa's benefit. The goal is not to enhance journalistic professionalism, but to ensure African media favorably portrays China, ultimately turning them into part of China's propaganda machinery. This aligns with China's broader United Front strategy. China not only spends heavily in Africa, but also attracts African students to study in China, offering them privileges beyond what Chinese citizens receive. One African female student shared her experience in China. Do you receive a 2,500 yuan scholarship every month? Yes, we receive a full scholarship, which includes accommodation and tuition. The 2,500 yuan is for living expenses. So you don't have to pay for anything and you still get 2,500 yuan every month? Yes, that's amazing. So you save the scholarship money and use it to travel to other countries? Yes, that's right. I visited 17 countries. In Europe, I went to Sweden. After watching the video, many netizens flooded the comment section with criticism. Why are foreigners always given better treatment than our own citizens? Over 900 million people in China have a monthly disposable income of less than 2,000 yuan. Another commented, under Xi Jinping's great leadership, China provides massive aid to Africa every year and brings in large numbers of African students. To prevent them from feeling bored, they're even provided with attractive female students as companions with generous stipends. Yet somehow...
Whoa. Not only do they get the benefits, right? The full benefits of being like getting scholarship, getting a living allowance that's more than an average Chinese person gets, right? Getting, getting so much money that you can travel, right? You don't have to pay rent, don't have to pay food money, but you get a check. You get a girl on your arm as well. Imagine that, man. It's like they're prostituting their own students to the Africans to make sure that the Africans go back and say, oh, we had a great time in China. Also, they can propagandize the rest of fellow Africans. Imagine being like prostituting your own country's women, right? Young kids, young girls to African men, right? Students, after giving them everything. Yet, oh, that's disgusting, man. Seriously, like, I mean, that was just, that was gross. Like, they get all this, and then they get a check on their arm as well, right?
Under Xi Jinping's great leadership, China provides massive aid to Africa every year and brings in large numbers of African students. To prevent them from feeling bored, they're even provided with attractive female students as companions with generous stipends. Yet somehow, many Africans still resent Chinese people. Why is that? One comment criticized the government's policy of providing extensive aid to Africa while hosting many African students in China, suggesting that female students are often assigned as companions to ensure that African students don't feel lonely. However, the commenter questioned why African people still harbor resentment towards Chinese individuals despite these privileges. The reference to companions relates to a scandal at Shandong University in 2019. A former female companion wrote an article revealing that she initially volunteered to accompany African students to receive financial aid from the university and reduce her family's economic burden. After being accepted, her role involved spending time with a Congolese student. The article described how their relationship began amicably but deteriorated after a weekend party where some African students behaved inappropriately. If a companion refused to attend such events, African students would file complaints of racism or disrespect with the university. Such complaints often led to deductions in the companion stipend or academic penalties. Reports revealed that during one gathering, over 20 African students were paired with Chinese female companions. These companions were typically selected from financially struggling families and were chosen for their appearance.
Dude. Those poor girls, man. On this channel, we talk about the young people, right? A lot. And I was asked like last week when at the wedding, right? I was asked by a person I've known for decades. He said, "Oh, so what do you do?" I said, "Like, no, I mean, no, we're talking about all this stuff." And I said, "Well, I also do some, live streaming, right? Like podcasting." Because, "Oh, you do that?" Like, "Yeah, yeah." It's like, "Oh, well, what do you talk about?" So, "Well, I talk about a lot about young people, right?" And basically, that's basically what this, we talk about all these other issues. The main things we talk about young people, right? Because I used to be a youth worker, right? So it's always been my thing. All the thing, most of my aim's always been about like young people, education, their health, their betterment in life, right? Because if you start kids out right, they'll continue and they'll reciprocate and they'll just pay it forward, right? Pay it forward. And here you got these young girls coming from, they specifically picked them from poor families. And they have to get with these African students who get there free, who get paid money on top of just being there, who gets everything paid for them to be there. And then these girls, like extra, I mean, I remember like, what was it, like I got paid to help some student learn, like upskill, who was struggling during what was like film school, film classes. He was having some trouble with editing, and I showed him. I got paid a couple bucks, right? It was like $20 an hour, if cash in hand from the school, right? It was just like, because it's just trying to get the dude, or I think it was a dude and a girl later on, and they were at 20s, and to help them, catch up, and so they wouldn't get left behind because they were struggling, right? Because they was first year and I was the second year, so. But here, not only these guys, these girls are like trying to help themselves, like earn a bit of money just by hanging out, yet they're getting physically abused and sexually, right? Inappropriate groping and all that, right? Made to drink, because they're not really there because they wanted to be there. These girls, they're there because it's gonna, help them get the extra points, help them learn some, a bit more about different culture, because these guys are stuck in the country. These are the poor. They're not the rich CCP politicians, family members or the elite. These are poor girls from the village, right? Or the poor families. These are your average Chinese, right? The struggling, the real Chinese, right? Not the elites who you see in BMWs or in your whatever else cars they got driving around in Teslas and whatever. And they have, they try to earn a couple extra credits, a couple bucks extra to help towards their friggin' food or whatever, pay off the rent. So it's not on their parents to provide everything, who are struggling themselves. And these assholes basically treat them like shit, treat them like prostitutes.
Struggling families and were chosen for their appearance. At gatherings, many female students were pressured to drink, even if they didn't usually consume alcohol. One female companion was slapped by an African student in front of others after refusing to drink. Outraged, the companion tried to leave the room with the assaulted student, but the African student she was paired with blocked her aggressively. The struggle ensued until restaurant staff and the manager intervened, allowing the two female students to leave. The article noted that
it's so gross, man. That is so fucking gross. That's just. I mean, there is a thing like, like, okay, school, university, college, whatever you want to call it, wherever you are, right? You're over 18. But most of these girls, they don't come from families where they drink. They're traditional families. They're very controlled. They're very, polite. They treat a certain way. And then these guys who come from fucking liberal African countries, right? They want to treat them like hoes, right? Like their girls back home. Basically, this is what I would list under migrant crimes, right? I have a whole list of like all the, that I'm going to do. And it's like, yeah, there's like a whole, series I'm going to do about migrant crimes, right? But like, this falls under that. This seriously falls under migrant crimes. These privileged fucks get to go to China, get everything paid for, everything, right? And extra, right? And then they get a girl in their hand because they're bored.
neither the assaulted student nor her friend received the school's financial aid that year. Meanwhile, several other companions reported.
So not only does she get abused, she gets victimized again. They don't receive scholarships. They don't get their aid, right? They don't get their fees paid or whatever they're supposed to be paid. All because these black cunts, right? I'm sorry. for the C word, but yeah.
Had abortions months later, something widely known on campus. Resistance was futile, as the university clearly sided with the foreign student.
Wait. So he forced himself on her. And she got pregnant and then had to have an abortion. Because there is such a thing as like Chinese racism towards black people, which is why this makes it even worse. Because now she has to live with the stigma that this guy raped her, forced himself onto her, and has a black child, right? And she would be, stigmatized for the life just because of this dude. This is what I mean, like, about communism, man. Like, a lot of people don't get it, that you have no rights under communism, that even the little that you have is taken from you. And then,
nor her friend received the school's financial aid that year. Meanwhile, several other companions reportedly had abortions months later, something widely known on campus. Resistance was futile, as the university clearly sided with the foreign students. The article concluded with, "In the end, the fact that we graduated safely was only because the school turned a blind eye." This scandal caused an uproar, exposing the murky reasons behind China's large-scale recruitment of African students and the ulterior motives of the Chinese government. Some commenters speculated that African students in China enjoy such privileges because many are the children or relatives of African elites and officials, not ordinary citizens.
And once again, the rich and the elite pounce on the poor wherever they go. They're all the same. I was listening to no, it's not BOYB. What was I listening to before? I didn't even realize I had it. All right. System of a Down, mezzanine, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, it's like bring your own war, or bring your own bomb. Thing. It's like, why do they always send the poor? The rich never send their own kids, and to the front lines. So the elite of Chinese, the CCP, don't send their kids, their girls, to be with these guys. They send the poor girls, the attractive poor girls, right? Seriously. And then you got the rich elite, right? Politicians' children, business owners' children, millionaires' children from Africa, right? And then they grow, they abuse, they violate the poor. It's the same thing everywhere, right? Doesn't change. And these girls over there in China have no rights because they're poor. Now, it'd be a huge scandal if, of course, it won't happen, because they won't be even allowed to be near them, right? Because it'll taint them. So they've got to send the poor kids. They won't send their kids, right? They won't go to send their privileged kids, Chinese kids, there, because, they're not going to send their girls there to be their companions. China's been saying a lot about what happened with World War II, with Korea and Japan, because this sort of thing happened there as well during the war. However, here they are doing it in modern times. See, a lot of people, when they speak loudly, they're usually the ones who are doing it. Talking about that, you guys might have seen, like, recently, that lady, that bishop, whatever, idiot, who was running down Trump. I don't even know how she even got this chance to speak, but you know, putting him down and get found out that her foundation was making $56 million US, which is around about $18 million New Zealand. That's a lot of money, right? Because it's 1.6 times one of our dollars, right? So it's 100 becomes $160 right now. And because Trump's in office, it'll be more. Might even double, I reckon, within like maybe by end of year, the US dollar might double because because of what Trump's doing and all that money that's coming back to the US from the US aid, from the FBI, CIA, and all those, you know, useless government agencies that they black hold all that money into. That's coming back, right? And so, like this, right? That lady was basically that bishop was supposed to, was paid $56 million to house illegal immigrants. Yet, normal citizens weren't even able to find homes. They were homeless, weren't even to get jobs. I saw a video today, right? Was it from what's his name? Is he a Korean or Chinese guy? He always stands up and talks, right? And he was saying like how I'm not sure if it was him, but anyway, so there's a guy, right? There's a black American. He gets up on on his phone. He goes, "Man, I just got back from work. I just spent the last 8 hours on a construction site. Before that, I was like a Uber driver, right? And I rocked up to a construction site and I asked for a job and I got hired on the spot." And he said, "I want to thank you, Trump," right? This black dude, he goes, he's probably about 25, 30-ish, right? He goes, "I want to thank you, Trump," right? "Thank you, Trump, for helping me get a job today. I just spent 8 hours. I just knocked off just now, guys." That's what he said. "I just knocked off just now, guys. I've just spent 8 hours today on a construction site." When you're working and you put in the labor, especially if you're male, there's a thing that happens to you mentally that a lot of people don't understand. Females don't understand, psychology, whatever, idiots don't understand, is that there's a pride that comes with it, right? When you're working. That's why I don't have to work, but I'm always working because I feel a bit of pride in what I do, right? I don't have to write comics. I don't have to do anything. I'm taken care of because of my injuries and stuff, right? But because I enjoy what I do, because I want to give back to society. I don't want to just lie back and take it all, right? I do this and I enjoy doing this, and that gives me wellness. That makes me feel mentally well. That makes me feel proud of what I'm doing. There's I'm saying like it's ego, but it's not really ego. It's like I don't know. It's just something. It's like it makes you feel good, right? It makes you pride in yourself that you've been able to do something, and that's what that guy felt. That 8 hours he just spent working, right? He clocked in, he clocked out. He put in the hard yards. He'll do that again tomorrow, and he'll keep doing it 5 days a week or whatever is available for him, right? He might even do some overtime because then he knows he'll get some overtime money. Previously, I saw some videos, people were making about how there's guys, they're like, "I'm the only one here today," and he's Latin, right? Hispanic, whatever you guys want to call it, right? He says, "I'm the only one at work today, guys. All the others got taken and aren't showing up because of ICE." Whole construction site. I have a friend who runs construction companies, right? In America, building things. And he's tied up for the next lot. Right? His company is like going to be set up for the next few years, like at least 5-10 years. because now he can hire Americans and he can pay them well. Not that he wasn't hiring them before, right? But he's just saying that now people are building more, right? That thing in LA, you know, you're not going to have ICE, you're not going to have illegals taking those jobs. All those homes that burned down, because they do burn down. I think it was like some, you know, with the fire dude started the arson, right? All those homes need to be built. All that plumbing has to be done. All the electrical fittings have to be put in. All those units, those cupboards, those you guys, I've said this before. I used to work in a tile shop, and I used to sell furniture and all that. All that stuff, all the bedding, everything, all the clothes, right? It's going to be replaced. Now you're going to have Americans doing that, citizens doing that, right? So you're not going to have illegals doing that. Somebody else taking that money and not paying taxes on it or getting paid under the table. That is going to be so good because it's going to give so many people a backbone again, mentally, a pride in themselves. Because it's not going to undermine the economy of the country, because the rich people will get rich, but the poor people won't have jobs because the jobs that were there went to the illegals. And so the wage rate was kept low all the time. Well, you don't want to do it? Well, I'll get an illegal to do it. $1 less. That's how it's been. That's how it always has been. What was it like? They call them like the scabs, right? In the old days, they used to call them scabs. Like, you know, if citizens don't want a job and like there's a strike and stuff because like the business is like, is being, doing something dodgy, and so you walk off and you go, listen, we want to work, but you gotta be treated as fair. And then they bust in some other people, right? And they take the job and they get paid less, or you don't want to work, we'll give them. We used to call them scabs.
Citizens. The common people in Africa have no chance of getting these opportunities, so they envy and resent the privileged students, but they can't direct their anger at their own leaders, so they resent China instead. The Chinese government's preferential treatment and underhanded tactics to attract African students align with its United Front strategy. The goal is to brainwash these students and grant them special privileges so that upon returning home, they serve as China's propaganda tools.
Remember, these are the elite. Right? These are the leaders. These are people these are the future leaders of those African countries. See, these people like got given and they live the high life. They get to abuse whoever they want in China, who had just been handed over to them, these girls. But also when they go back, they're going to carry on because they are expecting to do that. And that's why Africa never fucking goes forward ever. Right? Because their leaders are always corrupt. Because their kids learn from their parents. You know, you see a dad smoking, dad tells you, right, the Hypocrite song from Beastie Boys, that hypocrite smokes 6 packs a day. Dad caught me with smoke and he's going to take away my smoke, cigarette, but that hypocrite smokes 6 packs a day. So, imagine saying that to your son, well, you can't smoke. And then your son goes, well, Dad, you do it too. Yeah, okay, son, go. Because that's how they get treated, privileges, right? And these are the future African leaders. It goes round and round, but none of those so-called African, YouTubers, like, African diaspora is one of the main ones that I just think is fucking hateful. They never look at their own selves in the mirror and go, well, why is our country always corrupt? Oh, no, sorry. Why is our country never going forward? Why are our leaders always rich, but we're always poor? How come our people are always poor? We have fucking minerals, right? We have gold. They dig it up, but how come I'm still living in a shack? Why is grandma living in a shack? Why haven't I got heating? Sorry, you don't need heating in Africa. Why don't we have electricity, right? Why don't we have a TV? Why is our power always cut? As South Africa's finding out with the new government, right? Rolling blackouts because they don't know how to do things. Because they got rid of all the people that knew how to do them, mainly white people, because that's how it usually goes. You get rid of all the smart people, and you take all the money for yourself, and then there's corruption. You just take a little bit of slice, and next thing you know, all you got is like crust. But the sad thing is, the privileged class learns the privileged class way, and they continue. And you're going to see the future of Africa continuing down the corrupt lines.
July, a Chinese blogger launched a poll on Toutiao. The poll was titled, "Who cares about the happiness of Chinese people?" The options were the Chinese government and the US government. Out of 2,587 participants, 2,340 voted for the US government, while only 251 voted for the Chinese government.
And there you have it. That is straight from the horse's mouth, as they say, right? Where are we? Too far. Hold on.
Government and the US government. Out of 2,587 participants, 2,340 voted for the US government, while only 250.
There we go. Damn the number. So the average Chinese person that actually went out of the way to vote, because a lot of them would be like, I really don't want to vote on this, because what if the government finds out that I voted this way? Yeah, because that's what communism really is. Everybody knocks on everybody else, elite get to run the show. So if the Chinese people think America's good compared to their own country, I don't know how Americans still think that China, that China's any better than America. And the reason, and I'll tell you why it is that way, is because propaganda, right? Propaganda in the young is because they haven't lived long enough to understand what propaganda is, or how propaganda, eats away at you slowly. I watched something yesterday, and that American was doing something bad against the Chinese. Oh, what did he do? Oh, he just called him some slang, some word. Okay. Oh, all right. 2 weeks later, oh, I was watching some other American dude, and you know what? He let his tire down. This Chinese guy's tire down. Oh, that black guy's tire down. Oh, man, Americans are kind of bad, aren't they? But I guess that anybody's like that, right? And then a week or two later, passes, goes, "Oh, yeah." So I was in the subway, and I saw, I know it's American because I recognize with this accent. They're very lumbustious, very loud people. You could tell by the accent. So they're in the, and he wouldn't get off his seat. Or this Chinese guy, or this Chinese elderly lady. Oh, must have something against Chinese. Americans must know. And that's how it goes. Slowly, your brain starts slowly going, and that's how. But if you're young, you have no clue, because you think, oh, yeah, but propaganda is a really interesting way that it seeps into your brain. Yet, everybody's trying to get the hell out of China, those who have money. I've been watching this for a while, and it's like anybody who can leave, who's got enough money to leave China, is getting out, because the country is just going downhill. Like I said earlier, 100 million young people are not going to get married. They're not going to have children. They do not want to have children. They don't want to have the burden of actually being in a relationship. That was something that the grunge era, sadly, was what we were discussing in the 90s, because it made us depressed. it made us think about, well, there's no hope in the future. And I was like, kind of stupid. You know, but like we were talking about, yeah, I don't want to have kids because, you know, this and that. And it's like, but like, then what, you're going to just go off some one thing? Like, sure, there's like, you know, I mean, if you have a child, then there's other, you know, you'd get, you know, you'd probably get help from the government if you can't afford it yourself, because we're in the West, right? We have social welfare, we have social, you know, services, because we don't want to let our kids starve, because that's not the way we work in the West. But like mentally, you know, you're seeing all these things, and it makes everybody, you know, like, you know, the world is burning, you know, everything's terrible, and like, yet you got to hear people in China going, we think America's better than our country, right? Because they see their country, they live there, they get to see exactly, and then they see across the world, and they see this green, you know, grass growing, people walk around doing whatever the hell they want, eating whatever the hell they want. They got money, yeah, they can spend that money. They have money, right? That's the thing. Americans, as poor as some of them are, they still walk around with a $500 cell phone, right? They have running water. They have power. Chinese see that. Those poor rural Chinese who don't have running water or don't have power, they see that. They see how the Joneses live, right? And Mr. Chan over there is starving. He can't feed his family. Or if he does, it's noodles. And that's it. Some sauce 3 days a week, 3 days with no vegetables, nothing. All right. And I mean, imagine voting against your own country that way, in that many numbers. Was it 2003, 4 against 251, right? 250. But you know, everybody thinks China is the greatest place. You know, they're so advanced, doing so well. Everybody's happy because they only see what they want to see and what is shown to them in the cool little clips. They don't see any of the Chinese actually talking themselves about it.
One voted for the Chinese government. The poll was quickly taken down, and the blogger's account was deleted, likely because the results were too embarrassing for Chinese authorities. This sparked heated discussions on X.
So if that happened in New Zealand or anywhere in the West, nobody would care. They would ask, well, why? Apart from like, why? So what do you think about that, about our country like that? What can we do to make it better? But you can't do that in a communist country, because you have no say. You can't talk like that. You can't vote on a friggin' blog. Yeah, you can't embarrass your country like that. In the West, we say whatever the hell we want about whoever we want, without, you know, without being obnoxious on purpose and rude and racist or something like on purpose, right? And even here, we get checked, checks and balances. But you know, I guess in the UK they don't like that. They're arresting people for memes. So basically, becoming a communist country. The government is anyway, because their leader Starmer said one thing and got in and said another thing. Like I said earlier, how I like leaders who actually, like someone like Trump, who actually says something and does something, so he doesn't get into power and do something else, because now he's got the power now. And that's what Keir Starmer did. He basically said one thing and basically turned around, did the opposite.
heated discussions on X. Some users remarked, this result strikes at the heart of the Communist Party's image. They claim to serve the people, yet they've lost the trust and support of the public. Others joked that the Chinese government only cares about organ transplant matches, or that they are most concerned with African countries. Mr. Zhao, a Chinese citizen, commented, the Chinese government harms its own people by squandering taxpayers' money to fund African students. I once saw a video of an African student enjoying a feast, saying he couldn't even spend all the money China gave him. Meanwhile, Chinese students are struggling. How is this not betrayal? Zhang Junjie, a Chinese history student who is studying in the US, said,
Isn't that what like everybody's realizing now about America under Biden, under Democrats? Well, we're struggling, but where's 100 billion went to the war in Ukraine and it disappeared, right? Where did that go, man? Where did that $100 billion go? Zelensky himself said, I put up a clip, right? Said like $160 billion was supposed to come to us to fight our war, but we only got 67 billion. Where did that go? Right? 100 billion US dollars. That's 160 billion New Zealand. You could buy New Zealand for that, I think. Maybe. Pretty close to it. It's a lot of money. You could buy countries for that. If not just islands, but sure, you can buy an entire country for 160 billion, right? Well, 100 billion US, right? But, you know, China's doing the same thing.
not betrayal.
Like I said, 100 million young Chinese men, right, or young people, do not want to get into relationships because it's a struggle just to survive right now. Yet these dudes don't know what to do with the amount of money that they're getting from the Chinese government. Because their Chinese leaders, the CCP, the communists, want to buy their souls. Because, hey, remember that time we gave you all this money? Now we want it back by the minerals under your ground. Remember your dad signed us, you know, a legal agreement? We come to collect. That's what it's about. And of course, that's what Biden was doing, right? And the Democrats have been doing.
Chinese history student who is studying in the US said the Chinese government has lost the hearts of its people. Citizens know that the government doesn't care about their lives, rights, or dignity. Most Chinese people are aware of the issues and hope for change in society. On December 20th, a Chinese netizen shared a video of a father mock interviewing his young daughter, sarcastically criticizing the government's lavish spending in Africa.
If I don't spend the money I earn on you, your brother, or your sister, and I don't give any to your mom, how would you feel?
Why wouldn't you give it to us? Are you going to give it to grandma and grandpa?
No, I'm donating it to kids in Africa.
Well, don't they have parents? Why are you giving it to them?
They do.
Then are their dads like you, ignoring their own kids? You won't take care of your own wife and children, but you're raising someone else's? What's wrong with you? What's the point of having you around? As they say, from the mouths of babes.
That's basically what Black and Hispanic Americans are realizing right now. That they've been duped. And like the last 4 years, I've been saying this, right? Online and stuff. And you're being racist. I mean, like, dude, you guys got to stop just believing everything your Democrat bastards are telling you, right? Your Democrat daddies are telling you. And now they're like realizing, oh, all those Trumpers and all those MAGA, all those conservatives and all those people were right. They were just taking out money and giving to somebody else. Like all these illegals living in hotels and stuff, getting credit cards, getting phones, new phones, clothing, housing, travel. But our own people are struggling and homeless, getting addicted to fentanyl, which is coming from China through Mexico, and I think also through Canada. And everybody's going, well, why is Trump so pissed off? Well, because he actually cares about people, and he hates seeing his own people, his own citizens, and we're looking at them and seeing them all addicted and dying of fentanyl, or seeing them struggle because he talks to the people. You know, he doesn't sit in his high horse and like only meets the rich, right? Raising $1 billion, getting paid, paying someone to come and perform at his concert, right? And then letting people know that we aren't there because we've got paid for it, right? And I haven't been paid yet. Like Oprah was like, say, like, oh, I haven't paid it, or somebody else was saying it. I usually look a lot of the things that really I just don't pay attention because it just annoys the shit out of me. So I usually watch in passing. But imagine that little girl, right? That's basically where every American is right now, realizing that, especially Black and Hispanics, how they were used as useful idiots by the Democrats. When you finally, when your eyes are open to the truth, after calling all your brothers and sisters coons, Uncle Toms, right, for voting for Trump, or going to his rallies, going to his speeches, and being called, racist things, self-hating Black person. Because I'd watch them on YouTube, right, and on interviews and stuff, and I go like, you guys have no idea that you still have your blinders on. And all these guys who have actually listened to Trump, who actually are voting for him, want change. They don't want the blinders be on forever because they can see in the suburbs and the rurals how people are struggling, and how the elites, right, treat the poor, right, and how they speak about the poor, right. Remember how they hated that song? What was it called? Try That in a Small Town. They call that racist, right? Yeah, because in a small town, you take care of each other. I grew up in a small town, right? I remember two kids did something very nasty, and then the dad found out, and then everybody in the town was happy. That was a result of what he did. Nobody went against the dad. Everybody was in agreement. It's a small town. We know how to mete out justice, right? However, in in Biden's America, police weren't allowed to police, right? If you caught someone, you had to let them go, right? What is it? ACAB? They got away with, all, not just one or two, all cops are bastards, is what they were saying. So nobody was joining the police force. People were retiring in droves. They were undermining everybody's safety. All right. How do you punish the criminals, right? If without having a police force that that is an arm of the government law to protect you? But no, because one or two people did something wrong, whatever, percentage wise, everybody's got to pay for it, right?
In present-day China, Xi Jinping resembles the emperor with no clothes, blind to reality while believing he is guiding the world. If laughter from a child can bring down a palace, then that palace was destined to fall. Even if children understand this simple truth, yet the Chinese Communist Party cannot, it signals that their downfall may not be far away.
Now, I think there was another one. Okay, and then we'll finish with this last one. Here we go. This is like about Chinese wanting to prosper.
The following footage was captured at a factory in Africa run by a Chinese company. In the video, a group of Chinese workers are seen armed, standing in the courtyard to prevent locals from entering. A voice in the background says, "Prepare all the bullets." Moments later, a man welding an iron rod approaches with a group demanding money. The tense negotiation continues for some time. Eventually, the man with the rod leaves the courtyard, but the group doesn't go far. They begin throwing iron rod-like objects at the Chinese workers, seemingly as a form of intimidation. Insiders' report revealed that this factory, a plywood plant set up by Chinese entrepreneurs, has become a target for locals. Representatives frequently show up to demand money, leaving the Chinese workers feeling that their firearms are of little practical use in such situations. Additional reports suggest that setting up factories in Africa is fraught with challenges for Chinese businesses.
I'm in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We tried setting up industrial parks. Over there, most Chinese invested factories either went bankrupt or pulled out entirely. Do you know why? The government is just too corrupt. The business environment is horrible, and they squeeze every penny out of you. As soon as they hear you're a Chinese business, they come after you. Today, it's the Commerce Department. Tomorrow, it's the tax office. The day after, it's the police, then the Environmental Bureau, and then Customs. The whole system is predatory. Honestly, the country has a deeply ingrained culture of banditry. It's like the national tradition, giving you the sense that you're just living day to day.
Beyond persistent demands for money, entrepreneurs often face robbery. A post on Platform X highlights a recent anti-Chinese incident in Mozambique, one of China's major aid recipients in East Africa. Mobs looted Chinese-owned stores, and some local reportedly used Chinese-donated armored vehicles to ram into Chinese-operated supermarkets. According to the post, the Chinese government's foreign aid policy to Africa is labeled as scattering money.
After decades of the West and US learning what Africans are like and have decided to stop, and I know US aid has been pulled out, now basically, now it's basically China's turn to learn what Africa's like. Imagine giving them millions and millions of dollars of resources, and they steal it all. They use vehicles that you provide to protect their their country, to ram your own your countrymen's businesses and steal from them. They're like,
More Africans see Chinese people as walking ATMs. In some cases, even local police engage in extortion against Chinese nationals. A video posted online shows a Chinese netizens expressing frustration over these behaviors.
Then there's Mozambique, which left a deep impression on me. Our Chinese supermarkets and factories, everything we produce, all the goods we sell, they love it all. And they're so enthusiastic. They helped themselves to all our products and took everything home for free. That's their way of repaying us for the years of aid we've given them. It was such an emotional scene, but honestly, it's made me reflect. We haven't done enough to influence them, and we need to intensify our efforts to win hearts and minds.
A whole friggin' decade of giving them free shit. And this clown thinks that we just got to give them more because we got to make them like us. We got to make them communists. Got to keep throwing money at the problem. They see, remember what the dude earlier said, they see Chinese people as ATMs. They saw the West and America as ATMs. So now they're seeing the Chinese as ATMs.
In the future, we should offer more scholarships and financial aid to African students to ensure their happiness and strengthen China-Africa friendship for the long term.
Yeah, so more of your poor girls with no rights under communism get raped, get abused, sexually violated, have their lives ruined. Yeah, more of that. Good on you, mate. That is a CCP plant. That's what you call what is it called? It's called a spy. No, insider? No, yeah. It's a specific word for that. That's a propagandist for China. Gotta give them more, man. Because we're not doing enough for these black people over there, right, in Africa. After a decade, God, we gotta intensify. Give those black elites more scholarships. Give them millions of dollars to live on, so they can visit the whole world. While our people, our students who need it, who can't afford to pay the fees because all those monies are going to them, or get scholarships because all those monies are going to them, because mom and dad's got to pay high taxes, whatever, right? But those black guys, we got to give it all to them so they can come to China. And maybe finally, after a decade, they might change their mind about us, that we're not just a walking ATM. Oh, man, it's just the funniest shit. I mean, can you believe this?
Accounts from interviews and personal testimonies suggest that some local African harbor unfriendly attitudes towards Chinese investors, sometimes even looking down on them. This starkly contrasts with the narrative promoted by Chinese state media, which predicts China as a benevolent partner helping Africa improve its living standards. Official reports often highlight stories of mutual benefit and enthusiastic local support for Chinese businesses. These portrayals instill pride among many Chinese citizens who are led to believe that China's economic strength benefits individuals venturing abroad. Consequently, many leaped to invest in Africa with high hopes. However, the reality for ordinary Chinese workers and business owners in Africa often tells a very different story.
Most of us have seen the movie Wolf Warrior. It's thrilling and action-packed, leaving you with a rush of national pride and making you feel like you're unbeatable. Watching it, you get the impression that Western countries wouldn't dare mess with us, and that if we went to Africa, flashing our passports would guarantee special treatment and smooth passage everywhere. Back then, I was still in China, but when I finally set foot on Africa's soil, I realized the movie was pure fiction, like a novel. We're not as invincible as we imagine. In reality, when foreigners come to China, we treat them like royalty. But when we go to their countries, they treat us like nobodies, especially in many African nations. From the moment your plane lands, it starts. At customs, you pull out your passport, and instead of special treatment, you get another kind of special attention. Uniformed officers deliberately make things difficult, expecting bribes. Then there are the porters fighting to carry your luggage. At first, I didn't understand. I thought they were just being helpful, offering to serve the people. Later, I learned that if you don't pay up, they won't let you go.
Challenges like extortion and targeted attacks are not unique to Africa. Similar issues have been reported in economically underdeveloped regions of Southeast Asia, where Chinese individuals are often seen as easy targets. In the video's comments section, one user remarked, "The media's polished narrative is nothing but a magic show. Glamorous on the surface, but riddled with hidden traps." Another criticized the portrayal of Chinese resilience in films like Wolf Warrior, saying, "I've seen clips online, but couldn't stomach it. It's just a movie,
So this clown here, right, the main actor, he was a propagandist in promoting the falsehood of the narrative of the movie, right? The fiction movie. He was out there. See this? He's like, see this passport? This is your passport to the world, right? This is your. They will treat you like kings, and everybody believes it because hey, why else would he say it? Then they learn, like the guy said, that nobody gives a shit about if you have if you're Chinese or not. You're actually worse off because you're now a target for extortion, by the criminals, by the government, right? Everybody's corrupt in the leadership, right? All the way down to the guy driving your taxi.
Reality.
Or the person selling you food because they'll just up it. Double the price because you're Chinese, so pay extra. But it's not just, Chinese, but like if you go to certain countries, they'll do it to Europeans as well because they see, well, you got yourself here, so you must be rich. They don't realize that maybe you've saved up a whole year or two. You have this time off work to actually there, and all you got is enough to survive for the 2 weeks that you're there. Oh no, but they see you as rich because you actually made it across there. That is the way poor people think because they've never lived overseas, so they don't know what it costs like for you to live in a Western country, a developed country. So they don't know all the bills you're paying, all the taxes you're paying. So they don't see all that. When they see you buying a $5 drink, they think you're beer. They think you're really rich. When it's like that's a normal price of a beer to you, right?
This raises a pressing question. In an era of globalization, cross-border business ventures are hardly new. Entrepreneurs from Europe, the US, and Japan have also operated in Africa. Why then do stories of Chinese individuals being extorted or targeted emerge so frequently? Is it a uniquely Chinese issue, or does it reflect deeper international and political dynamics? First,
I think it's because Europeans don't take shit. However, the Chinese, because they've been so sheltered and lied to by their communist overlords that they don't know how to handle it. Some of the shit I've seen coming out of China is terrible, right? It's corruption all the way. So they're used to being corrupted, right? I mean, being abused and you have to pay bribes, but not like Africa, right? And these people that actually make it over there, they're not like the poor people, because the poor people in China are used to being, having to pay bribes to get shit done, or being, abused and hassled continuously by their overlords, right? Every part of their society, the mayor, the freaking policeman, the town, the guy on the corner, right? Someone's trying to rip somebody off continuously. So their life for the poor and the average Chinese is like that all the time. However, these guys that actually have businesses are not part of that, right? They're part of these, kind of the elite because they're actually able to build something elsewhere. Otherwise, they'll be, after building it in China, now they're exporting, right? They haven't been through this because they're the ones who've been doing the corruption. Now they're being corrupted. They're being extorted. They're the ones who used to extort. Now they're extorters. I mean, being extorted, I should say.
There is a dual trap of cultural misunderstanding and economic disparity between China and Africa or other nations. Culturally, many Chinese entrepreneurs come to Africa with a benefactor mindset, believing they are bringing advanced technology, capital, and job opportunities to a less developed region. This attitude often overlooks.
So Chinese see themselves as a white savior, something the European and the West has let go of like about probably 50, 40 years ago, right? My brain just went to was it Band-Aid? Live Aid. That was the last time we kind of like really kind of felt like a white savior thing, right? Now it's just like, no, let them sort their own shit out.
And national pride and traditional values of local communities. For younger Africans, low wages and temporary jobs are insufficient. They aspire to skill development, long-term careers, and equitable dialogue with foreign investors. However, many Chinese companies operate with a rigid, efficiency-driven management style that lacks cultural sensitivity and personal engagement, which locals may perceive as arrogance. Economically, to cut costs, some Chinese factory owners
Right.
employ.
What she basically actually means is, and the Chinese basically say, you do this, you do that. That's what you do. And if you don't do that, we'll dock your pay. That's basically what their society's like. You show up, you clock in, you clock out. Some of them don't even get time to have, go to loo. There was this really weird shit. There was a really, it grossed me out. There was an office, of workers, no walls, no nothing. And there was an open section, holes in the ground, right? And, it's like they have long drops. And there was no walls there. And they're doing that in front of the, going to the loo and pooping, whatever, urinating, while the other workers were right there. In this open room, large, like with about 30, 40 people, around 30 people in it. Oh, China's so advanced, man. Wow. Like, seriously, I mean, fuck, China is so advanced, dude. Like, yeah, very.
Low wage or even explorative labor practices.
Oh,
Such
gross.
strategies, while reducing expenses, can backfire and lead to conflicts. Ultimately, while official narratives may paint an optimistic picture of Sino-African cooperation, the lived experience of many Chinese individuals working or investing abroad reveal the complexities and challenges beneath the surface. A social media post has revealed troubling practices at a Chinese-owned business in Zimbabwe. In one case, a local worker reportedly died on the job, but the Chinese employer merely promised the family $2,000 in compensation, avoiding any mention of the accident's cause or details about employee safety. This lack of accountability has sparked significant dissatisfaction among locals. Such incidents aren't unprecedented. They mirror problems seen during the early development of private enterprises in China. However, in a foreign country, these issues more easily escalate into conflicts. Discussions about Chinese enterprises in Africa inevitably touch on the controversial Belt and Road Initiative. Introduced in 2013 by Chinese leader Xi Jinping, the BRI was promoted as a grander vision than the Marshall Plan, aiming to establish a fair global economic order and drive worldwide development. Xi labeled it the project of the century. However, over a decade later, many participating countries have found that the initiative has not delivered prosperity. Instead, it has often brought financial hardship. According to India's Vidhan News, the BRI has become synonymous with high-cost financing schemes rather than genuine aid or development projects. Nations like Sri Lanka.
They go into these poor countries that cannot really pay their bill, right? Like, because they're all poor, right? Even like, it's not like advanced because it's always been corrupted. Their leaders are corrupt, so only the elite are the rich. There's no middle, and then there's no proper middle, and then there's just the poor. Yet they put up these amazing, like this one here in Sri Lanka, right? The Sri Lankan thing. They put up all these huge, like sophisticated looking things. Most of them will crash within like a couple of years because all the metal is cheap shit. And just like in China, all their buildings are crashing because corruption means that like a lot of like the more expensive stuff is not being used. It's like the cheap stuff. And it's been sad watching that because it's like sides of buildings falling down, buildings falling down. Like, it's just been really bad. If you've ever watched the China show, I recommend that show because they have all the latest clips every week. But you see the atrocities that are committed against their own people by their own people, right? It's like slavery, right? Like African slavery, African slavers, Africans selling each other for money to the Dutch, to the whites, to the French, Americans, until Britain, paid so much money to buy them all back and pay off all the owners of slaves that it was only about a decade ago that they were actually able to pay it off, because that's how big the loan was that they had to take to stop slavery. But people still want fucking reparations. Like yeah, sure. Like all of you were paid off. Your parents, your grandparents were paid off, were bought by Britain to be free. Your freedom was paid, and now you still want money? You don't know your history.
Laos and Pakistan are teetering on the brink of economic collapse due to their involvement in BRI projects. For instance, Sri Lanka, an early supporter of the BRI, has now fallen victim to its debt traps. After defaulting on Chinese loans, it remains the only government in the Indian Ocean region to have surrendered substantial assets to China. Similarly,
Do you hear that? They basically surrendered substantial assets, not just like, oh, yeah, you can have this, better, that. The big shit. So it's basically over for Sri Lanka. And I've been saying that, like, anybody gets involved with China, business-wise, infrastructure-wise, and the Pacific Islands have been doing this because they're fucking stupid. Because they think, oh, the West has been abusing them, using them. Like, at least you knew what the West is going to do. At least they were going to come up tomorrow and go, give me your money. Pay off your loan now. There was, at least with the West, you had like a system in place. Like I just said, Britain had friggin' since 1800s to a decade ago to pay off a loan they took to, to buy slaves from their owners so that those slaves could go free. But no, we're going to go with China because, quick buck. And now, now they're paying for it, which is kind of sad. I shouldn't be laughing, but better the devil you know, right?
Kenya's $5 billion railway project financed by the Export-Import Bank of China has faced severe setbacks. Plans to extend the railway to Uganda have stalled because neither country can manage the existing loan repayments. Kenya's debt to China has surpassed $8 billion, promoting deadly protest over international debt burdens, with demonstrators accusing the government of selling out the nation's interest to Beijing. Think tank like the Rhodium Group have documented extensive debt renegotiations tied to the BRI. Between 2020 and 2022, $76.8 billion of debt was either restructured or, in some cases, written off. In 2020 alone, the first year of the pandemic, $48.7 billion was renegotiated, while the 2022 figure of $9 billion was still 3 times higher than in 2019.
See, this is the problem with these people who are corrupt. They don't know how to, because they're so used to money in their pocket all the time, because they've stolen it from their countrymen, right? From the country. They think it'll be all there, so they can make these big moves. Because although you get the poor, right? The poor pay the bills. Where are the poor going to pay the bills from? And this is why, you got to really think ahead for the rainy day, because you don't know. And none of these African countries, because they're all freaking corrupt, actually ever think about the future, because they've had daddy USA and they've had daddy big the West, right? Like France, UK, maybe Australia, right? Europe, Canada, always holding their hand, always there to help them out. It's It's like ableism, right? And suddenly they had to, rely on themselves. They went, "Oh, China can help us now. They're bigger, right? They're better than America." So they took billions of dollars in loans, and they couldn't pay it back because guess who took those billions of dollars of loans? I mean, the money from that. All the corrupt politicians and the elites of Africa. They lined their pockets up, bought them mansions, got them houses, bought them friggin', resorts, whatever you want to call them, like places, for their future. Cars, planes. Oh, but it's the white person's fault. It's the Chinese person's fault. The dude who's trying to make a buck, it's their fault. It's the person who's selling groceries in your community, that's their fault, right?
At the World Economic Forum in Davos, Democratic Republic of Congo, President Felix Tshisekedi sharply criticized a $6.2 billion infrastructure for minerals deal with Beijing. Tshisekedi lamented that the Congolese people have seen little benefit, with less than 1/3 of the promised infrastructure funding delivered. While China has profited enormously from Congo's resources, he described the deal as a terrible contract under the BRI framework.
So, did you get a third party to check it? Did you get your lawyers to check it? Did you reach out to the UK or British, House, those major high courts and all that to check it? No. Then why are you complaining then? I made a mistake of not having my lawyer check one, and I was like, it's got screwed. I'm like, yeah, I owned it. Sometimes you make mistakes, get it, but it wasn't $1 billion. I could eat that up, but it wasn't $1 billion, right? Or 90 billion, or 10 billion, or 5 billion.
Recent report from the Atlantic Council,
Hell,
a
it
US
wasn't-
think tank, highlights potential risk behind.
It wasn't even $2,000. It was $1,600. So I was able to eat that up. But these guys are like, we'll take everything you want to give us, man. And we'll take a slice of ourselves as well, a couple $100 million in our pocket when nobody will notice. Like I said earlier, where did the $100 billion go that was supposed to go to Ukraine? Hell, our country had to pay for that shit war. And we had nothing to do with Ukraine or Russia. Who started that? Well, Biden and his CIA cronies in 2014. I knew that as soon as that war started. Like, I looked into it straight away. It's like there was a documentary made. I think it was Oliver Stone or somebody made it like that. Like, did a whole thing on it, 2 parts. I went online and watched it. It was on archive.org. I was like, this is shit. This has got nothing to do with Russia. This is all friggin' America and Ukraine. Russia, and I'm not Russia apologies, but Russia said to them, don't do this, right? I don't want these guys in NATO because I don't want to be surrounded by NATO. I don't want NATO on my doorstep. So don't get them, but they weren't going to have that because NATO, CIA, undermined the world. Got to do that. And now that's why Trump's like, oh, we're not going to pay NATO bills until everybody pays their bills. Well, why do you think America was paying so much bills to NATO? Because NATO was doing a lot of shit in Ukraine with the CIA. It's getting exposed now, right? But yeah, dude didn't read his contracts. Now they're going to moan and bitch to the West and to America, to Brits, right? And to Europe. Daddy, come back and save us. Make the Chinese pay. Make them stop taking our stuff. Take these loans from us. Please, Daddy, America, please, USA, pay more billions. We didn't read our contract. Although we're saying, kill all the whites. Kill all the whites. right? Did you see that clip I put up? The dude was saying, kill all the whites. He's the new South African leader. And they have been killing all the whites. And now you want to go to the whites and go, help us, help us. It's amazing how quickly everybody learns what's been going on within a couple of weeks of Trump being in power. Right? Because all the secrets are now out. All they've been hiding has been out now.
A recent report from the Atlantic Council, a US think tank, highlights potential risks behind China's BRI. It cites evidence from 795 Chinese government training programs, alleging that Beijing is training authoritarian leaders in the global south. CEO of the Taiwan Inspiration Association, Lai Rongwei, points out that China conducts training programs in Africa.
Did you hear that? They're training dictators. All right? 795 government training programs alleging that Beijing
is training authoritarian leaders in the global south. CEO of the Taiwan Inspiration Association, Lai Rongwei, points out that China conducts training programs in Africa, teaching local rulers how to strengthen one-party rule. This includes transferring knowledge about authoritarian governance and maintaining social stability, resembling a training school.
So not only, or they already have corrupt leaders, which is reminiscent of CCP, but now they're training these guys to be dictators as well. So goodbye to Africa's future. It's going to be a continent of dictators. I mean, it's had dictators before. That's why they're getting a new guy in, right? What's his name? Where is it? It's Melana. I think I was supposed to put up tomorrow. Let me check. Let me find it. Go to studio. Yeah, that's that guy that's going to be the new leader who wants to kill kill all whites, right? Yeah, there it is. Where's the link? Here we go. Oh, wait, here we go. It's only 28 seconds long, but I've seen a lot more of this. All right, so this actually translates to kill all white people. So we'll come back to that one in a sec, but I just want to show you guys this while real, right? So that's what it translates to. So you guys, it's like kill the whites, kill the white farmers, right? The Boer, right? Sorry, I think it's a bit loud, so I'll turn it down a bit. See, does it translate to that? Let me see that auto translate. Wait.
Alliance shoot to kill Gamaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer. Brr, pa, pa, brr, pa, pa. Attention.
See that? And the West is supposed to help these fuckers. But yeah, if the Kamala or Kamala, as we call her in Indian, right? In Hindi, Kamala, not Kamala, Kamala. If she was still in power, that dude would get money. He'd probably get $1 billion, right? Yeah, have another stadium or two. Fill it up with people. Hey, why don't we get you a streaming? Stream all your hateful, vile, because those people are already killing white farmers. It translated to poor, but it's boa, right? Boa means whites, right?
Model. Lai describes the BRI as a form of neocolonialism, arguing that while many African nations are nominally independent, their economies and politics are increasingly under China's control. Observers, including Swedish expert Bertil Lintner, attribute this to China's communist ideology, governance model, and economic practices. Scholars further argue that the debt burden imposed by the BRI has fueled sentiment among people in some African countries. This frustration occasionally manifests in attacks on Chinese businesses or factory owners. Chinese labor migration to these regions has exacerbated local concerns about job competition, environmental degradation, and resource disputes. Beijing's global propaganda campaigns portraying itself as an economic and political powerhouse has also triggered skepticism and fears of unchecked expansionism in certain nations. On a micro level, these tensions often escalate beyond China's immediate control. Despite official claims of protecting overseas Chinese interests, Beijing frequently lacks the diplomatic and legal resources to assist individual business owners or workers abroad. Many of those facing difficulties abroad find themselves relying on costly compromises, often paying bribes or additional security fees to keep their businesses running. For those unable to afford such costs, closure or prolonged legal disputes often become unavoidable. This reality starkly contrasts with official narratives claiming comprehensive government protection for Chinese nationals overseas, leaving many in an increasingly precarious position. Despite these challenges, a large number of Chinese workers continue to seek opportunities in Africa. Analysts suggest this is partly because negative incidents involving Chinese nationals in Africa are often censored or underreported within China. Instead, Chinese
basically they don't know what's happening to their fellow Chinese, their countrymen in Africa, so they keep coming. Right? Just like all those students who are getting raped, sexually assaulted, groped by those, especially, the poor students, Chinese students, by those African elite in China. Basically, here you go, do whatever you want with them. So that's what's happening with these business people, Chinese. Go over there. Don't care if something happens to you. Well, who cares? You get killed, get murdered, get chopped up, get buried, never go back home. Don't know where your body is. Family still waiting. Who cares? That's always been the attitude of the elite, right? But under communism, it's even more, because like if a Westerner, happened to go somewhere and was, something happened, you want to find out, right? And we've looked at that. We've done did one with what's it, Philippines, with a dude who just was ignoring, everybody's advice and put himself in danger and ended up, getting shot, bleeding out.
Media emphasizes the success of infrastructure projects and the warm diplomatic exchanges between African and Chinese leaders, perpetuating an image of strong Sino-African friendship. This distorted narrative fosters misconceptions.
What I meant was like, by the time they got there to get help for him, right, to find out where it happened, he had already been, gone. But he put himself in danger constantly. Everybody was telling him you better leave because they're coming for you. They didn't mean to shoot him, but because they wanted more money out of him, but he got accidentally shot.
Particularly among young Chinese who view Africa as a land of opportunity without understanding the hardships faced by small businesses owners struggling to survive in these regions. On a broader scale, these dynamics reflect changes in China's economic landscape. Over the past 3 decades, rapid growth in domestic demand and exports has driven China's economy. However, a slowing GDP growth rate and structural imbalances have increased pressure on the industries. China has sought to export surplus production globally at lower cost to address.
Yeah, I was just thinking there. It's like a dumping ground for the cheap shit, right? It's all that Temu crap, right? It's just like the rubbish that they can't move to the West goes to China. I mean, goes to Africa, or goes to Latin America. It's always been that way, or the South Pacific. The cheap crap that the West doesn't want, it goes to the poorer nations. And so they just dump all their stuff there. That is harming the economy there and the local business there, which has been doing it all over the world anyway. And I'm so glad that Temu has had a 10% increase in tariffs, and they've been crying about it. But we're going to look at that soon.
Overcapacity. A report from London-based think tank Capital Economics forecast a further economic slowdown in China, with annual growth potentially falling to around 2% by 2030 due to real estate market contractions and cautious consumer spending. In response, the government has intensified investments in key sectors such as semiconductors, aerospace, automotive, and renewable energy, aiming to generate surplus for export markets. According to the World Bank, China's manufacturing output accounted for 31% of global production in 2022, with its goods exports comprising 40% of the global total, a significant rise from just 10% and 5% respectively 2 decades ago. Wesley A. Hill, head of international projects at the International Tax and Investment Center in Washington, described the current trend as the third wave of Chinese exports. The first wave, he explains, emerged in the 1990s before China joined the WTO, disrupting traditional industries in the US. The second wave saw a surge in Chinese consumer goods in the mid-2000s, displacing products previously imported from Japan and Thailand.
Yeah. See, my thing is, with all these tariffs going up in China, that Trump's putting up, all those companies leaving will come back, right, to their respective nations, right? However, the greedy ones at the top are just moving it over to Central Africa. I mean, Central America, Asia, because they still want the cheap labor. Okay, it's not in China now, but yeah, okay, now it's over there. So they're not returning it, and I'm hoping that the tariffs will go up higher to where it'll be better for them to come home than to be overseas. And then there's the people, the bleeding hearts go, well, what about their economy? Who gives a fuck about their economy? What about our people? What about our economy? They can sort out their own shit, right? Why do I need potatoes from Gujarat? All right, I bought some, like, the reason I say this, we're talking about, like, what was that? Earlier I was talking about, like, how we had to pay tariffs for our farmers and stuff, and then, like, I bought 3 different types of 2 types of potato chip sizes, right? Like there's a finger size, and there's like the shoestring. You get at McDonald's, that size. And then also bought some wedges, right? Potato wedges, spicy wedges. And I was like trying to see where it's from, right? And I was looking at the back and it's like Gujarat. I was like, that's like around India, isn't it? Around Bangladesh. I'm like, why the hell am I getting potato chips all the way from there? And I'm paying the same amount as the other potato chips. Like, but then then our country has to pay for the green emissions shit, or whatever that thing is called. my brain's not, it's been 3.5 hours, so my brain's a bit fried on trying to figure out what that was. But like that whole tariffs thing we got to pay to the Accord, whatever it is, the greenhouse shit. But why am I getting potatoes from India? Potato chips. Where there's farms here. Actually, I'm growing some potatoes in my freaking pot, like large pots I have on my balcony, and it takes ages to grow because it needs lots of room, and I've only got that much, and I've got like everything mint growing on it as well, apple mint, but it's got to travel all the way frozen, right, and kept in a frozen freezer on a shipping container all the way from there to here. And then we got to pay the tariffs for the greenhouse emissions. So we're basically losing out left, right, and center. Our farmers are losing out on chips, right? And then the taxes coming off me and off them is going towards, a stipend of that is going towards the greenhouse emissions. How does that fucking make sense? It just doesn't, because the whole green shit initiative is all shit. Because the main polluter is China, right? And India, I think, right? If I remember right. Let me see. I did a thing on this last time. Find out who's I just saw the top 3. Let me ask ChatGPT. We're close to finishing, but I think how much longer we got? We only got about a minute to go on the video, and that'll be the end of that. But let me find this. All right, which 5 countries? Wait, hold on. Who are the top 5? Who are the top 5 polluters? Top 5 countries. Polluters? Yeah. Polluters in the world. I think ChatGPT understands my way of talking now. I was writing, whatever. Right, China, 30%. Just so you guys think I'm not making this up. Right? Who are the top 5 polluters in the world? The top 5 polluters in the world are typically ranked by the contribution to greenhouse gas, GHG emissions, which are the primary drivers of climate change. Balls. Climate's always going to change. But the balls part is that we ain't doing it. Right? And why the hell are we paying into it? Here are the top 5 based on recent global data, considering countries and sectors, right? China, 30%. Look at that, and look at that. China does twice the amount of America. India does half the amount of America. So India is doing it's not even 1/3 the amount of China. And then the EU is around, entire, 27 nations of the, European Union is doing 7. And even Russia's doing like hardly anything, 5%. Right? Now, countries like China, who produce shit, right? Rubbish, lots of plastic shit that you don't want, that you don't need, because it's not quality, so it breaks all the time. So if you were actually able to save up and buy something of quality, then it will last longer. That's why everybody goes, well, how come the old things lasted longer? Well, because now they're made crap. They're made to be broken down, right? They're made to fall apart. Whereas before, it was made to last. That's why your fridge could last for a decade or for your entire family's life, your whole life, right? As a kid, you could like 20 years, 15 years. Right. So countries like China and India have high emissions due to manufacturing goods consumed globally, which highlights the responsibility of importing countries. Right. So because they make a lot of shit, the rest of us got to pay for it because we got to import it from them. So what if we don't have them make all the shit and we make it ourselves within our own countries? Then we don't have to import that shit. That way we don't have to pay all these. We don't have to pollute all that much, and we don't have to rely on China polluting for 1/3 of the whole world. Right. Maybe then we can actually control how we pay some GHG fees when we don't have to. And that's what I was thinking about that. I was like, why the hell are we continuously making our farmers who produce our freaking food that we need to eat the bad guys in this? Right? They're the guys, like, if they don't produce, and if you make them the bad guys, the criminals, the evil people, and then they get, well, why the hell are we going to make food? Then we'll have to import all our food. And then we got to pay more tariffs. Then we got to pay for more emission fees. Then we get more screwed. Well, what we should do is say, thank you, farmers. Thank you for growing our food. Thank you for, for our milk. Thank you for our cheese. Thank you for our meat. Thank you for our vegetables. Thank you that I can live today because that you provide here in our country. That we don't have to pay huge fees to some friggin' country over there. They don't give a shit about environment. They don't care about polluting the world. But because they don't care and they continue to pollute, we got to pay for it. Anyway, last minute of this Chinese dream of prospering in Africa.
For many small and medium-sized enterprises, venturing abroad to Africa or other emerging market has become a matter of survival. Faced with rising domestic competition, stricter environmental regulations, and higher labor cost, many businesses see Africa as an untapped market with lower wages and abundant resources. However, these companies often lack cross-cultural management expertise, strong diplomatic channels, or legal safeguards, leaving them vulnerable to corruption and bureaucratic hurdles. As one entrepreneur lamented, if you can't make it in China and hope Africa is easier, you may find it even harder.
Problem is, like, Chinese been told that, like, hey, your kings outside the country, they will love you. They'll fall at your feet like Pope Francis kissing a black dude's feet. And I'm like, what? Because he, it's in the Bible, wash people's feet. Figuratively, right? Whatever. But like, he wants to like show how pious he is. So he puts on a show. And he goes, oh, you must accept all the illegal migrants. It's like, no, thank you. You should not be telling people what to do until you get everybody in the Vatican. But did you guys see that video I played, how like this migrant Muslim basically broke into the high church in where was it? It was I think it was actually yeah, and he smashed up the church, like the altar. It was crazy. Like the dude basically smashed up the altar because Muslims are so peaceful, right? And they love all the religions, right? And yeah, it was this crazy as shit. Where is it? I think, yeah, we'll finish with this. Here we go. There we go. Pause it. All right. Last little bit. It's only about a 30-second bit. Okay, volume. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah. Diversity is our strength. I guess, he's going to say, well, Pope Francis will be like, oh, is that what his name is? Like, I don't really follow Catholicism or anything like that, or, whoever's a pope is. But he'll be like preaching, whatever. Oh, something was wrong with this mind. No. He hates Christianity, and your place represents Christianity, and so he's going to shit all over it. They have no respect for any other religions. All right. That is us for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully, it wasn't too long. Like I said, didn't do a whole lot of live streaming, but I mean the last week or two, trying to get my 10 days or whatever. But thank you for joining me. Hopefully, take everything I say with a grain of salt, and check out the information yourself. Because at the end of the day, I'm just giving you my opinion, and as I say, opinion, everybody's got one, and this is my one. It's my channel, so that's where I give my opinion. Thank you for joining me. Have an amazing week, day, night, evening, till I see you next time. However, tomorrow over the Plunge Comics channel, I'm interviewing Greg Harms, who is a Texan comic book artist, really good artist, and he is going to be talking about this brand new comic convention he started there, which some of my my comics going to be at, because my publisher based in the US and lives in Texas, so we're kind of supportive of that. And that's over around about an hour after we went live today. I don't know, I think it's about 8 p.m. Central US, something like that. So maybe it's EST 7 or 6. But yeah, do check it out. Hopefully, if you live in Texas, if you know anybody who lives in Texas, anyone around Texas or traveling Texas, and you're in America, please let them know about Boomtown Comic Con, or con, whatever convention. Or watch the live stream tomorrow and check it out. And I'll try to ask all the questions I usually do from people about what they're doing. So, kakiteano, thank you guys for hanging out, and wherever you are, have an awesome day. Keep safe. Crazy world out there. Thank you. Bye.
Nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Like, literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.